feminism is
here's what actually happened.
The foundation of all
money. I'm really mad that
what difference does it make, right? What
Stop.
The deregulation of the industry is obviously going to cause more of that industry.
And to lubricate the trust connection between people until they have enough.
Yet we could still look at biological reality in determining who's a female, even if there are.
Why don't you denounce feminism the same way you're denouncing capitalism? If you don't...
For something to be objective, it needs to be verifiable. And you can't verify...
If I make a claim as a political pundit, it is true that I definitely could be wrong. You're promoting, right?
Ideology is the main thing for politics, right? This is my ideology.
And so, 2015, anyone go back and watch the footage? The first GOP debate.
Cool, Robert. Oh, that? With a crowbar, you say?
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. I am Sarah, the Raging Tomato, bringing to you live another Moderator Monday. This evening, I have with me Speak Easy, David Cooley from No Fugazee podcast, Tally from Tallybots, and of course, the Soy Pill. They are here this evening to debate the the statement, sexism is good for society. Speak Easy, would you like to start with your opening statement, please?
First off, thank you, Sarah, for moderating this, and my partner in opposition that joined. Thank you for that. And let's get right to it. Sexism, defined as discrimination based on sex, is not bad for society. It's good for society, and it's not just good, it's necessary. It's the whole reason civilization exists at all. If you all look around you, every single one of you on the panel, in the chat, lives in a world built on sex-based discriminations. Do you guys like women's bathrooms? That's sexism. You like women's sports? That's sexism. You like those nightclubs letting the women in for free on ladies' night? Sexism again. You like to rule women and children first when the ship sinks? The most extreme form of sexism. Yet nobody argues against it when lives are on the line. Why? Because sexism works. It makes society function. Socially, we accept all kinds of sex-based boundaries because they bring stability. That's why we keep bathrooms and locker rooms separate. That's why women-only gyms exist. And these aren't flaws in society. These are features that everyone wants. Legally, sexism has always been protective. Women are exempt from the draft while men are sent to die. The Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938 and a bunch of different protective labor laws barred women from heavy industrial jobs and specific chemical plants posed on reproductive health risks because they knew they had to protect the reproductive bottleneck of society. And this is all discrimination, and it's discrimination that society demanded and still demands today. Economically, sexism drives markets. Industries like fashion, cosmetics, entertainment, these are all billion-dollar empires built on sex-based discriminations. Even nightclubs use sexism to drive revenue. Entertainment thrives on it. From male heroes to damsels in distress to the women's sports leagues that nobody watches, these differences make culture compelling. Eliminate sexist archetypes and you erase most of culture. You put women's and men's sports leagues, women are vanished from sports overnight. The only reason women's sports exists at all is because of discrimination. And for survival, it's not even debatable. Societies that embrace sex-based roles thrived. Those that didn't collapsed. Men take on hardest, most dangerous jobs, and this frees women to manage homes and raise families. You send men to fight and die because women are the reproductive bottleneck. You protect them, and your society lives on. So here's the bottom line. Sexism isn't going anywhere. It's in our laws, our bathrooms, our sports, our survival strategies. And here's the biggest kicker. Even feminism agrees with me. And I'm not advocating for feminism, but let's be honest. The entire movement is built on the idea that women deserve some special treatment. That's sexism. By definition, feminism says sexism good. It's just selectively for women, which means if the opposition holds a position that feminism is good, they have already conceded my point. It's inescapable, and it's what makes society possible. And I'll see the rest of my time.
Perfect. Thank you, Speakeasy. David, to you.
Yeah, so we'll get right down to it. In their worldview, I'll just make some assumptions here. I'll be sexist currently right now. In their worldview, they believe things, soy pill, just by his name being soy pill and the woman on the panel being a lesbian, I can make this confident assumption by saying that they both believe that feminism is good. And feminism is, in fact, it's at its core is sexist. Feminism appeals to male sex enforcing rights for women, but for the female sex, they cannot enforce their own rights. So it's inherently just sexist. So if you believe in feminism and if you think that's good, then obviously you think that sexism is good, just like Speakeasy said. I also make another confident assumption that they are pro-abortion. I believe that these two have some type of view of anti-natalist view. And abortion is in itself sexist because it takes two to make a baby, but women hold all reproductive rights over men. So I'll go ahead and make my opening very short there. Since Speakeasy, he broke it down perfectly for me. I have a lot to say, but you used a lot of what I was going to say, so I'll make it short and I'll bring it to the opposition.
Perfect. Thank you, David. Tally, to you.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah, for having us. Thank you, gentlemen, for bringing us to this debate. Is sexism good for society? I'll start this off by saying that I am not someone who complains about sexism. I think that social animosity between the sexes goes both ways, and I don't concern myself with accusations of toxic masculinity, the gender pay gap, or female underrepresentation in the sciences. We are a sexually dimorphic species. We have evolved to be different and to be able to recognize these differences within each other. Like our opponents, I believe that there are, on average, significant and meaningful differences between the sexes, both biological and psychological, and that these differences are at the core of the discrepancies that we see between men and women, not discrimination or patriarchy. It is precisely for these reality-based reasons that I do not believe that sex discrimination is good for society. People tend to sort themselves on the basis of their skills, their interests, and their needs. These tend to fall on sex lines, but there will always be exceptions. We should demand competence and retain high standards, but we should not deprive our society of advancement or success on the basis of an individual's sex. The answer to the future is female feminism is not repeal the 19th red pillism. America and our allies in the West are the greatest societies to ever emerge in history. We can promote healthier cultural messages to young men and to young women without approximating the repressive cultures of the shithole countries around the world. It sounds like our opponents are arguing in favor of sexism against men, but that's obviously not the topic of conversation here. I take it that the prompt was not designed to promote the WNBA, so I would ask our opponents, what really are their prescriptions? What sexist prescriptions are they calling for this country? Thank you.
Thank you, Tally. And Soy Pill, to you, sir.
Yeah, I agreed to this debate because I'm generally curious as to what the affirmative position is. I appreciate that both of my opponents have shown that they can be just as retarded as women can by assuming our positions without doing any amount of research, despite both of us having numerous takes that you can just look up, which I did for Fugazee. Speakeasy, sorry, I didn't do that, so I guess I'm also stupid. Speakeasy, you said a lot of things I actually might agree with. You said that using the sexism definition that isn't pejorative, so for example, having different categories of sports isn't so bad. bad. And I think that's totally fine necessarily. If that's all you want to talk about, I think that's a very weak conversation. However, most people view sexism as something more egregious, keeping women out of jobs, from voting, or stuck in the house. Based on what I've seen of Fugazee, that's what he advocates for. They're going to do this by fallaciously blaming all of society's current problems on women's rights, completely ignoring all of the advancements in technology, life expectancy, and general standard of living that we've seen since women entered the workforce. I do predict that they'll be completely unable to point to a single society in which their ideal is carried out that is better than ours, which is exhibited by the fact that they would never actually nut up and move to any of these places. Sexism is not just wrong, it's literally suicidal if you want to have anything above a third world shithole where half your population doesn't contribute meaningfully to progress.
Perfect. Thank you, Soy Pill. I appreciate that. Thank you, all of you, for your opening statements. As a kind reminder to the audience, if you have not yet purchased your tickets to DebateCon, please do so now. That information is available over at Modern Day Debates YouTube channel. Otherwise, we're going to get through our debate. We will do closing statements, read and respond to your kind super chats, and then, of course, we will move into open panel dumpster fire, everyone's favorite. Lady and gentlemen, I leave the floor open to you.
So I'm curious, like I said in my opening statement, what prescriptions you're calling for, because it seems like you focused a lot on sort of like interpersonal relations between men and women. So you gave the example of women and children, you know, getting off the sinking ship first. But that's not exactly what I would classify as sexism. I see that as just a furtherance of the acknowledgement of biological reality that women and small children are more vulnerable than the men. And so you try to get them to safety first. But if what you're calling for is people to treat people differently, you know, interpersonally on the basis of sex, that's one thing. Are you calling for legal changes? Are you calling for structural changes and discrimination on the basis of sex?
Do you not realize you're conceding when you say that? I don't see putting women first on the boats as sexism. It's just reality. Sexism is reality.
Is what I mentioned in my opening.
Yeah,
which is,
that was the
if you're
point.
saying that we treat people differently based on their ability to perform, and that women on average are going to be weaker in a lot of instances, then if you're saying, well, sexism is good because we have sexually dimorphic sports categories, or we have, you know, gendered bathrooms, like, yeah, congratulations, you won the debate. Sexism is having different bathrooms.
Yeah.
Now,
so how,
if you want to talk about like what Fugazee is
your
probably going to get into, then we can
what's
talk
your
about that.
definition of sexism?
Yeah, so discrimination, but like in a like keeping women out of, you know, jobs, or saying that they can't do things based on their abilities that isn't just based on some like inherent sexual dimorphism. That's like acknowledgement of reality. So
okay, give me an example.
That, so, for example, I wouldn't consider it sexist to say that women can't compete in men's sports. This is just a reality that most women just aren't as strong as men. It doesn't make any sense to not have different sports categories. Sexism might be, hey, you're not allowed to do this job, or you're not allowed to vote because you are a woman. Not because of your inability to do so, but because strictly based on the circumstances of your birth, we're going to bar you from that.
Got it. So you think that what sex is, and you would say that that's bad.
Yeah, I would say that's bad. Yeah.
And how do you define what's bad and what's good?
So like I said, if you want to talk about any of these standards of living, technological advancement, just how societies perform, like in general, now that we have given women more of these rights, it's much better off. That's one way to put it. Yeah, I guess. Okay.
And do you utilize the harm principle? So as long as it's, so you don't utilize the harm principle?
Depending on how you're going to define it, but you might have to give me an example.
Well, you could define it for me. I'm asking you.
Well, what do you mean by utilize? What do you mean by utilize? Because if you're asking us to
determine
acknowledge
what is good or what is bad. So if you utilize the harm principle, meaning that, well, I see in society that this produces less harm for people or more harm, then it would be good or bad on your scale. That's how you would rate it on your scale. So do you utilize the harm principle or no?
That's not the exclusive way I determine whether or not something is good is bad. Obviously, less harm is good, but there are things that might be completely harmless to other people that would, you know, promote societal discohesion. And depending on how you categorize that as well, this action in and of itself isn't harmful, but 10 years down the line, that's going to cause some big problems.
Yeah.
It's still
the reason why I'm asking this question, because you already made the concession that, you know, well, if you're going to say that, you know, women being in men's sports, you know, you would say that, well, if you're saying that that's sexist, then I would agree with you. And, you know, the debate is basically over. So you would agree that women being in men's sports is not a good thing, that having this area be sexist, this would actually be a good thing, keeping women out of men's sports and keeping the sexes separated.
Yeah. Discrimination.
So therefore,
is
I'm
used as a
asking for you to
pejorative.
define like what is the good? What do you perceive as good? Or are we just going to talk like over one another? You're
Why
going to
don't you
say
tell me
something
what
is
you
good. I'm
think
going to
is
say something.
good
I'm asking
first?
you the question. I'm asking
Well,
you the
yeah,
question.
I'm sure that at the end of the day, you're just going to point to religion, right? And you have a prescription from a bunch of different books that says, well, this is good and this is bad. And I'm going to say I use it based on my empirical association of who can
You use it
enjoy
based off
life.
your
in different-
preferences.
Yeah, well, your preference for a religion is just as valid as my preference for any
Okay,
and
fair
all
enough. I'll go ahead
duality.
and grant it. If you use it based off your preferences, if everything is preference based, right? And we're only using our preferences to determine is sexism good? Well, for you
As
it's
opposed
good.
to what?
Look, for you it's bad.
No,
For
no,
me
but
it's good. It's
before that,
preference based. It doesn't matter.
When you say preference based, when I say, well, all of society lives longer and has healthier lives, is that a preference, or is that just most people want to live longer and not die?
Well, based off of what?
What is your question?
Well, you said something. I'm asking you
Right.
based off
So
of what?
most people don't want to die. What is this based off of?
You are making the assertion that most people don't want to
That's an
die.
evolutionary drive.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
We are driven to procreate and further the furtherance of our species.
Yeah. I don't think you're getting what I'm saying. Essentially, what I'm saying here is if you are utilitarianism, then everything is based off basically your preferences. It's going to reduce down to your preferences. So you'll be utilizing your preferences. So I'll go ahead and grant the worldview and I'll say, well, I'll utilize my own preferences. I think
All
that
right. Do you
I
prefer
think
to
that
die?
sexism is good based off of the separation of men and women for sports. I think that sexism is good because, when the ship is going down, women and children off the ship first. I think that I can make so many prescriptions how sexism is good for society, and you would have to grant it because in your worldview, you believe in preferences.
Yeah. So again, when you dilute everything down to the vaguity of preference, this is literally everything ever.
It's
a
not
completely
diluting
meaningless
it
statement.
down.
No,
It's
it
not
is,
diluting
because
it down.
You
It's
can
what
say,
you
well,
appeal to.
you don't want to die. You don't want to stab you. Well, you're just preferring not to die. Like, yeah, that's technically true. In the same way that the way that society exists now, as Fugazee so correctly pointed out, there's tons of ways that we are sexist that probably Talia and I and probably everyone on this panel is completely fine with. But if that's all you came here to argue with is, hey guys, I think we should keep having the bathroom separate. It's like, great, cool. Is that really?
I
what
think
you're
it's
here to
really
say?
gay to
Or-
call that stuff sexist. Even like, come on, that's not what we're here to talk
It
about. Why don't we
literally
just get
fits
to
the
the meat and
definition.
potatoes?
Discrimination
Yeah.
Okay,
based
but
on
I
sex.
take it.
But
I
once
take
again,
it that's
speak
not,
easy. These
that
two,
doesn't encompass your
they make up
concern.
their own definitions. Like, think about it. You're a lesbian. You're sexist. You only like women. You discriminate. You don't talk to men. You only like chicks.
I talk
You're
to
a sexist. So
women.
obviously,
Well,
in your worldview,
let's-
sexism has to be good. You like
Let's
women over
hold
men.
on. Let's reset here. Discrimination, defined as the unjust and prejudicial treatment of different categories of people, especially the grounds of ethnicity, age, sex, or disability. For the bathrooms, I feel like it's like we have a male bathroom and we have a female bathroom, right? Like, I don't foresee sexism is built into that because we each have one. Now there's the other stuff going on, but I don't even know if that qualifies in this category necessarily.
Let me ask them a question.
Well, no, I think I can clear this up. I mean, Fugazee, you obviously are doing like what I think is a Mott and Bailey, which, yeah, I don't think it's very easy to defend the idea of sex segregated sports or bathrooms. But I've watched your stuff. You advocate for women not being able to vote or being more in the, work. Why don't you operate on the fact that you think that sexism is good? Because that's really what we're here to debate, instead of doing some pedantic bullshit about like, oh,
that's
you
what
think
we're
bathrooms
debating,
are
man.
fine? Cool.
Once
Like,
again,
let's talk about that.
you think
on,
that
hold on,
women
dude.
not voting is bad. That's what you think. So once again, if I just if I grant your worldview, then guess what? It's preference based. It's my preferences versus your preferences. Which determines time? Listen,
they discriminate
if
against
it's
women?
my
would you
preference,
prefer
stop it.
to
Listen,
live in?
if it's my preferences versus your preferences, it's going to reduce down to force. Who can enforce their own preferences?
No, that's not what it's going to be about. What's preferences?
Okay, well then how do we know that your preferences are better than mine?
In which we are
how do we know if your preferences are better than mine?
The two of you aren't going to get.
Okay,
The two of you aren't. Hold on.
I'm asking him questions. He's not answering any of them.
I get it, but we're running a little too far like I see what you're trying to get to in terms of just in the concept of defining good, right? And in order to define
Because
good,
the
you want to
debate is
establish
sexism
harm,
good?
right? Like, but Soy Pill already said preferences. He's already answered that, and he
Got it.
agrees
Yep.
with that.
So I'm
And
asking him a question.
You already
Right, so-
responded saying, "Okay, well, we're at preferences. My preference is this." So at that
Mhm.
point, I feel like that's kind of closed, right? We've already established where
It's
we are.
not closed. I'll tell you how it's not closed. So if he has a preference, his worldview reduces down to preferences, and I'll grant his worldview. This means that, well, how can we make a determination of who preferences are more valid? How do we make that determination?
Right. So, Fugazee, if you had preferences for certain types of sexism, like the voting thing or the women in the workforce thing, and I say those are bad, yeah, you can just say bad, good, bad, good. Show me then a society in which these sort of things are enacted that is somehow better. Because I prefer to live in America, or I think Speakeasy, you're what, from Toronto, Canada? I hope that's not a dox. I think that's public. These places
Why do
are.
I have to show you something if it's just my preferences? What do you mean?
You can say, I prefer to live in this place. I just will never move there because it's demonstrably worse in every way, and you look like a dumb hypocrite. But sure, if that's
No one said that. But why do I
Okay,
have
well,
to
what
show
do you prefer
anything?
then?
Why do I have to show you anything if it's just my preferences?
You don't have to. You don't have to show me.
He gave you
really
anything. I wouldn't validate anything to you if I'm just appealing to my preferences. So based off of in your worldview, everything is subjective. It's subjective morality, basically. You derive what's good and what's bad subjectively based off your own preferences. So in your worldview, how can you criticize me if I'm going to say, well, I think this thing is bad?
You don't exhibit your preferences. You say, I want to live in a society that this is this kind of sexist, and you won't go live in that society because you have all the benefits of a less sexist society. So you just look like a big hypocrite. But
No, not at all. Let's ask you a question. Do you believe that abortion is good? Women
that has
having
nothing to do with what I said about whether or not you want to live in a sexist society.
No, do you believe that abortion is good? Yes.
Why are you
no?
running from the question? What sexist
You didn't even
society
ask me
do you
a
want to live
question.
in? I
Do you
did. I
believe
said,
that
what
pointing
sexist
out that
society
you
do
want to
wanna
live in a
in?
sexist
What's
society.
I
more
answered the question.
sexist society? Which one?
I already answered the question.
What was the question? What was the answer?
I'm not going to repeat myself. I'm asking you a question.
None of us heard your answer.
Yeah,
you heard my answer. You heard my answer.
Everybody's going at once.
Sarah, I appeal to
did
you.
you
Which
hear his
country does
answer?
he want to live in that's more sexist than America?
Yeah,
I'm
I
curious.
didn't hear that. I
didn't
didn't
hear
hear
it.
that. I do apologize if you said it, but everyone
the
did
answer
go at
to the
once.
question was, it's my preferences. I don't. It doesn't matter because it's based off of my preferences. I can say that America. I can say that Ukraine. I can say any country. I can say Papua
name
New
one
Guinea.
that you actually want to live in. It's not
I can say any. I can say any country at all. It would still be my preference, and under your worldview, you would have to grant it because preferences are valid in your worldview.
So you think that
we can assess your consistency.
is
We can
equal
assess
in
your
my worldview.
consistency, though, right? So yes, if this is all subjective, right, and certain people think other things are good and other people think other things are bad, but we can test your consistency, right? So if you're saying that you want to see the various things that you're choosing not to touch right now that Soy Pill brought up, like discrimination in the workforce or taking away the right to vote,
I said that
can
in
you
my
point?
opener.
Hold on.
Can you point to societies that have enacted the type of society that you would like to see? Can you point to a country that has enacted that type of society that you think is preferable?
It's
We're testing
the
the
country you live on.
of your
The country you
stated
live in
subjective
right now
preference.
was built on this society. I mentioned
So
it
you're
in my opener.
so everything is doing good then? So we
Better than
agree
most of the
that-
world.
Yeah, I said the same thing. This country here. Or I can appeal to any
hold on.
country.
So
and
the
say
type
that
of
it's good under
sexism
my
that you guys are
preferences.
fighting for, just to be clear, the type of sexism that you guys are fighting for is women and children off the boat first, support the WNBA, and no trans women in women's locker rooms. Because then, sure, yeah, I'm
and draft exemptions for women, like I mentioned, right?
I think you guys are really hiding the ball here. Like, let's get into the meaty stuff. What type of discrimination on the basis of sex? Okay, let's change the question. What type of sex discrimination that is not present in America and Canada today would you like to see implemented?
Well, I brought up the Fair Labor Standards Act that we had of 1938. right? These were laws that barred women from certain heavy industrial jobs and specific chemical plants. They weren't allowed to be around certain chemicals that posed reproductive health risks. And as you see, as we've stopped doing that, it was around the 1970s where we really started not caring anymore for this. And as you see, it's a huge rise in autism since those years too. So not only are we screwing up everyone's reproductive risk of even being able to have children, when they do have the children, they have a bunch of problems too.
Okay, so ignoring the fact that we're just going to spuriously claim that autism is caused by the specific women in the workforce at these chemical plants with like absolutely no evidence. If you want to say that we should be
correlates.
Yeah,
you don't listen too good.
No, I understand why you think it happens. You just have no idea like how to demonstrate that in any way other than, well, this happened and then this happened. You know, like nothing other than the correlation.
You understand what correlations are?
Do you understand the fallacious nature of saying that correlation is not causation? Do you understand that the less amount of pirates that we see over the year correlates with a rise in global temperatures, and these things have nothing to do with each other?
Wait, it would be fallacious to say correlation is not causation. I didn't say that.
No, it would be fallacious to say that correlation is causation. As in,
say that.
after that women started
that
joining these things, we've seen more autism. Therefore, this is the reason we have more autism.
I didn't say it's causation, but when you see a heavy
why did
correlation,
you even mention
what is
autism?
the causation exactly? How
Why
do you
did
find
mention
causation?
autism if you weren't
How do you
claiming
find
that
the
women working in
causation?
this? Why did you?
All right. Pick a question.
How do you find the causation, Soypa?
How do something doing?
You have to
something
be
that
able. You
results
have
in
to
another
be
thing
able.
happening.
The most correlates. Right?
No, it's actually no. You do not derive causation from correlation. You need to be able to temporally control for when in time these things are happening, and to control for other extraneous variables. Basically, make sure that these things are happening at the same time of day. That you can control who we're observing and all of this stuff, not just based on correlations. Like Soypa said, there are a lot of
based.
right.
Well,
but so
that's
if
actually
the
that is all
evidence-
you presented.
I think you guys
The
heard the
only
opening,
evidence
and
you
you're
provided-
desperately clinging on to anything you could argue about now.
I think
Let me ask
your
you guys
team
one
actually
question.
unfortunately has
Hold on,
injured
no,
brain
hold on.
damage.
Maybe we should direct.
Is feminism good for society? That's my one question to both of you. Yes or no? Is feminism good for society?
Depends
I
on how you
think
define
feminism
it.
has gone too far. I've debated about that in the past.
you
So
guys
yeah,
don't
no,
agree.
I'm
That's
not
great.
a.
But
feminism is.
Hold on,
I
maybe
think
we
no.
can
I
just
think
circle
feminism is
back.
bad
I
because it
think-
allows Tally to have that opinion. To be fair.
Exactly.
Sally had a
Could we?
question.
Yeah, I want to circle back to my question because it wasn't answered. I asked what forms, what implementation of discrimination on the basis of sex, or sexism as we're calling it, that we don't have today in the United States and Canada, would you push for? And your answer was that you want to reinstate.
Yeah, that'd be one of them. I'd take women out of
Okay, so again, like you're coming across really as like a simp, because all of the sexism supposedly that you want is like to protect and coddle women. Can you give another example?
Yeah, I would take women out of all combat roles, like patrolling police officers. They wouldn't be women, right? The women are more likely to have to use lethal force in a situation out in the field, more likely to do this than the man is. So I would take all the women out of those parts. I would take women out of the military completely, right? Because a brotherhood makes a stronger unit, right? When you start adding women into these roles,
like completely in the military.
All right. Yeah, completely. It would be completely out of the military for me.
Doesn't that sort of put you at odds with the rest of the argument, though, coming from your side, right? So you're saying it feels contradictory when, on the one hand, you have people saying like it's not fair, women, like don't have to go into combat roles and don't need to be on the front lines, but then you're calling for that level of sexism.
I didn't say that.
That's not what he said.
So what if there is? So let's get back to the policing thing. So I think there's a lot of merit
listen.
to the
Can I ask a question real quick? Because Tally, you have
I'd want to drill down.
Zero active listening skills. Like it's very bad. A question, like, so we can get on a topic, so we can determine.
Well, we
what
were
you
on
think
a
is
topic.
good or
He
bad.
gave examples of sexism that he would want to implement in society, and
where are
so
you going with this?
I'm
Yeah.
asked. I'll if you listen, you'll find out where I'm going with it. So I think there's merit to the idea that overwhelming majority, most women, 99% of women, are going to be limited in their ability to like fight street crime or chase down the burglar or something like this, and that does raise the higher likelihood of using lethal force. I think that's totally valid. Do you think there are ever exceptions to this? Do you think there is ever like a big old broad Samoan woman who could
It's never a monolith. To
efficaciously
argue
patrol.
something in a monolith would be insanity, right?
mean, like,
But that
saying
is
that
what
we
you're
should
arguing
bar
for,
all
right?
women
Because
from doing a
your
certain
specific.
role, that's a
Yeah,
monolith.
because I'm not gonna. Why take the chance? You take 100
Well, you
men
take the
and
chance
100
based on
random women
rigorous
just off their
testing.
names.
Let's
Rigorous
do one at a
testing.
time, please.
Yeah, so we
Yeah,
said
so again,
this at the
I'm
wait,
okay.
Kelly, can I
I'm okay with a society where there's only 2 police officers anywhere in the country, but that doesn't mean that you need to make it illegal for women to join the academy. It means that you need to maintain rigorous standards, physical standards for police officers. And that might result in no police officers that are women, but that shouldn't be the basis for the discrimination.
Okay, so you could reply back to that, Speakeasy. Go ahead. No,
I was just gonna say, if you were gonna take a 100 random men and 100 random women, you're more likely out of the 100 random men get more men that are capable of the physical combat. Okay.
Totally.
Did you notice
So
how
when
that has
this is
nothing
the
to
when
do
this
with what
is
she
your
just said?
chances,
She
you're
said
taking.
you should hold rigorous standards, and if women can meet those, they can do the role.
Yeah.
And if they can't, which a majority of them can't, then they shouldn't be able to do it, which is a completely normal position to have that also isn't sexist. It's just completely based on whether or not the merits of the job are able to be done. But you just ignored that completely. Speaking of active listening.
Well, based
how
off
are
of
you
what you
listening when
just
you're
said on.
talking?
Well, based off of your worldview again, everything is preference based, so it's based off of perception. So you may perceive something to be, good or bad, and he may perceive it differently.
Right.
But
So I think that people getting killed because women can't do their jobs is bad, which was why I would prefer to have rigorous standards that everyone must meet regardless of their gender.
Once again, exceptions don't make the rule, and I think he was clear about
no,
that.
actually,
So
in
you
this
can-
case, it very much does. If you're saying no women should be able to do this, you are by definition saying, hey, everyone who can do this, I'm going to just cut off a certain percentage of you for absolutely no good reason other than because I have a dumb sexist rule. In the same way, if you want to ban them from the military, you're going to throw out like 20% of people that make us more effective. Now, if you say, hey, there's reasons, we have studies that they're not as good in combat roles and, co-ed units, that's a perfectly valid argument.
Yeah,
but
so
to just
I think,
blindly cut them
when
off
you're-
from the military is just brain dead and stupid. And this is why I said this is shooting yourself in the foot if you want to just completely like cut people who are effective at their jobs out because you have no other good reason than women are bad on a whole in certain roles, but I'm not going to judge them based on an individual merit.
Yeah, I would have a different view, though. I would think that it's okay. I'm for women being in supportive roles in the military, but not on, supportive roles where they don't have to, where the military doesn't have to lower the physical standard for women to meet.
We agree.
So,
Sure.
Yeah, but real quick, because I want to ask a question. So, would you say that abortion, women aborting 1 million babies per year, a study came out that 28% of Gen Z was aborted. So you would say that that's a bad thing, right? Because we are below replacement level, correct?
Why do you care? It's a preference. I don't think it really matters, right? You prefer not that to happen. I prefer maybe that it could happen. I mean, what does it matter, right? I thought we haven't defined anything besides preferences. So why are we somehow able now to nail down what is good or bad?
Oh yeah, no, that's what I've been trying to do. What do you consider good?
I'm just doing your thing, buddy. Do I think it's good that abortion exists? Is that what you're asking?
Do you think it's good that women abort over 1 million babies per year? We are below replacement level. 28%, literally a third of Gen Z has been aborted. Do you think that women having all full reproductive rights over who is born and who is not born in America, do you think that that is good?
Are you asking because you would imply that any restrictions on abortion would be sexist, and that's how it's related to the debate? Because I've noticed you've tried to shoehorn in abortion twice now.
Is it good?
Is sexism good? Are you saying that abortion restrictions are sexist?
Do you consider it to be sexist?
I mean, inherently, because men can't have abortion restrictions.
Now, is
but
abortion
whether or not
good?
I don't think aborting a baby is inherently good, but I would prefer to live in a world where women could choose. Yeah, you got me, buddy.
Okay, so sexism is good. They just conceded the debate for the third time. Like,
hold on, can you point out?
Speaking
Can
in
you just
circles.
point out where specifically where is the sexism? Because again, as Soy Pill pointed out, yes, men can't have abortions, and I think that there's something inherently unfair about the fact that if a woman gives birth and doesn't want to marry the man, then he would be on the hook for financial payments to this child. But if a woman decides that she wants to kill the baby of the man that she was sleeping with, she gets to do that without his consent. I think that there's clear unfairness there. I wish that less babies were being aborted. But can you highlight, like, what's the sexism angle here? What would you want to change?
Oh, well, once again, I'm not, making any prescriptions here. I'm just asking a question.
Do you think that gynecologists are sexist?
I'm just
they
asking
only
a question.
operate
I'm
on
not
women?
making any prescriptions here, but when you're.
Do you think gynecologists are sexist, Fugazi?
You said, do I think gynecologists are sexist?
Yeah.
Gynecologists are sexist. No, gynecologists have a specific job, and
but they won't see men.
That job
Isn't that
itself, that job itself, just like men having a bathroom and women having another bathroom, the job itself would essentially be.
So that's not sexist.
Sexist. No, I'm saying that
and
it is.
Separate bathrooms also isn't sexist.
No, what are you? You can't hear, man. Active.
Oh, well, I'm just, hey, look, you have a
active
debate partner
listening
that was saying some stuff
man.
earlier, but if you guys want to move off of that, thanks for wasting 20 minutes. We could have.
No, I said yes, man, not no.
Okay, well, maybe you guys aren't fully on alignment of what should be done with sexism. I think you maybe should have coordinated a little before the debate.
I mean, this alignment was pretty good. We both brung up many examples, like even in his opening, I said
he brought up bathrooms as an example, but you don't think that's sexist, so you guys disagree.
When did I ever say that it's not sexist?
Just now, 10 seconds ago?
You have bad active. You have the ears of a female.
Okay, well then I'll ask again. Do you think that gynecologists are sexist?
Okay, so once again, I already answered the question. I'll go ahead and answer it for you again. So since gynecologists, it's a category of a medical field where doctors do a certain procedure or medical care for women. That in itself is inherently sexist, just like bathrooms and everything else, like I said.
So it is sexist now, okay.
Yeah, that's what I said.
We can play the tape back.
Nah, we could play the tape back. It's exactly what I said. But so, I mean, I guess I got some time for the open panel, Sarah, because they just conceded the debate. Let's bring up some more people.
I just don't know why you're running away from your real positions. Like you're like,
exactly.
So you think we should have separate bathrooms? Guess you concede, but I know what your real position is, which I think women shouldn't vote. I think women shouldn't be in the workforce as much. Like I've watched your videos. Why don't you want to defend that at all?
What are your prescriptions? What are your prescriptions? So your debate.
At least Speakeasy gave one, as much as it was something like, hey, maybe women shouldn't go places where their pregnancy is going to be threatened, which makes perfect sense. But do you have maybe some prescriptions on what sexism?
Well, he gave another prescription and then walked it back. He said he would take all of the women out of the police and the military, and then he said, "Well, of course,
he didn't walk it back." Fugazi disagreed with him.
Well, he did. He sort of did. He said, "Of course, it's not a monolith, right? And there are going to be some women."
I said it's not a monolith that women aren't going to be able to. But none of them should have women being hired as police.
Okay, fair. You didn't.
Why waste resources on sending women through police academy when they're not going to make it? Why would we spend
you only spend the resources on the one who meet the criteria
that aren't going to make it? Do you see how brain dead that is?
Yeah, even in the military, you test I had a very specific physically demanding role. I had to test into it before I could even sign up for it. And then you even get tested again even more after that to ensure.
Just a waste of resources.
It's a waste of resources if you put people through who can't meet that standard, but it's not if you check for the standard before you admit them and before you spend the resources.
Even you trying to argue that you want women in the military would actually
I want the most
you would be
competent
favored
people
for
in
the
military.
sexism that goes on there, right? Because women have their standards lowered to be able to enter into the military.
I'm against that. I'm totally
you're against that? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, yes,
So
it was
wait,
in my
if
opening
you-
statement.
if
Back
you
to
want
active
women in the
listening.
military-
Yeah, totally against that.
But if you want women in the military, but you do not want them to lower the standard in the military, then how would they get in the military?
So I'll tell you. So it's exactly like what I said with the police. I don't care about there being women in the military. I'm okay with having a military that has no women. I'm okay with having a police force that has no women. However, if there is a competent woman who is going to be an asset to that police force or to that squadron or whatever, then yeah, I think they should be allowed if they reach those standards.
Hear this. Just the simple fact that you are in favor of women not being in the the police force, or even if you are in favor in certain positions that women should be in the police force, it is all still sexist. Sexist is
so again back to the active listening. It's not. I'm saying that we should have one standard. We should have one standard, and any of the humans who can fulfill that standard should be admitted. That is going to overwhelmingly be men. Overwhelmingly.
If you're thinking that Tali or I are arguing for equality of outcome, you've come to the wrong debate. Neither of us think that there should be 50-50 in everything.
That's not even close to 50-50.
That's fair.
I'm
but
cool.
what I'm saying
I'm
here
cool
is
with
even
discrepancies and outcomes.
Got it. So if you are cool with discrepancies and outcomes and stuff like that, even if you are for the movement towards women in or out of the police force based off them meeting a standard or not meeting a standard, right? Even if you're for it or not for it, it still is inherently sexist. You want me to explain it to you?
So it's not, because it's not on the basis of sex, it's on the basis of a standard. Okay.
Once again, if they can meet this, if they meet the standard or don't meet the standard, it's going to create a category. And that category itself is going to be sexist.
Tell me if I'm wrong. Wait, Tali, let me clarify this. Are you saying that it's sexist because more men are going to meet the standard than women, just inherently?
What I'm saying is sexism basically reduces down to category placements based off of sex. That's what it reduces down to. So
I don't agree with that definition.
Well, if you, that's totally fine. If you don't agree with that definition, then explain to me the breakdown of the Google definition, which is prejudice, discrimination, and stereotypes. What is prejudice?
When we're talking about this in the pejorative way, there's a very obvious meaning to it. In the same way that we can concede that obviously having different bathrooms or different sports categories is technically discrimination based on sex, no one uses this to say this is sexist. So, for example, would you say that Ryan Coogler is a racist because he only cast a black guy as Black Panther? Technically, he is discriminating based on race, but anyone who would call this man racist for doing so is absolutely absurd. But if you want to say that's where the debate ends, like, I guess if you want to run away from your real positions, it's just silly.
Well, hold on. Let me clarify that too.
I've seen them. I know them. I just don't know how you want to say them.
Pardon me, all of you. Shut up. Sexism is meaning like you give an opportunity to one, but not the other. Right. So even if you like Fugazee, the example was there's a standard to get into this, either police or military, whatever. And anybody who can pass that standard gets through, right? It went men and women included, but essentially, let's say 90% of men pass through and only 10% of women pass through. That's still not sexism definitionally. They were all granted the opportunity. Now it comes down to a physical fitness test or maybe an aptitude test, so on and so forth. Even MEPS, even your MEPS, even to get into the military, you have to take the standardized testing. And if I score a low number, I couldn't get into, let's say, linguistics, right? I couldn't be a linguist because I didn't pass high enough. Or even if you score low enough, like you're only allowed to go into services where you're just doing like cooking or dumpsters or whatever, like dumb shit, right? So would, like, let's say more women go into be linguists and more men go to do dumpster shit or something. That's still not sexism. That's just where you're testing at.
Well, let me go ahead and explain how it all reduces down in their worldview into category placement based off of sex, because in their worldview, they adhere to their preferences. So everything is perception based, is based off of how they perceive the good or the bad or the unfair treatment or the discrimination or the stereotypes. Is all based off how they perceive it. So since it's based off how they perceive it, based off of their preferences, it reduces down to categories. So they may not favor certain categories, just like I asked him about abortion, right? And then he had to concede on it because in his worldview, he thinks that, well, women should have the full bodily autonomy and the right to abort children. That's what he thinks. So, and this would be a category. Within this category, women have all the right to it. You get what I'm saying? So this is how they perceive it. So this is why he thinks it's good. This is why the debate is over, because the debate is sexism good? They already conceded. The end of the debate. Let's bring up some people. I got a few more. I'll stay for at least 45 minutes more. Bring up some people because they are trash.
Cooley, do you think racism is good?
Sarah, he's trying to get out early because even our portion of the debate was supposed to go longer than another 45 minutes.
It was trash.
So, Cooley, you're conflating several things. So again, it feels like a W to you.
What I'm conflating in your worldview.
It feels like a W to you.
In my worldview,
I thought you were very angry about interruption. So you keep falling back on, well, according to their worldview, everything is subjective. It just matters what I want and what you want. And let's even accept that, even though, again, I think like Soypil said, you are also exhibiting your preferences in your worldview. You just pull from a different line, right? So you are rooting your worldview.
Let her finish, please.
Practice active listening, buddy. I know it's hard.
Let her finish.
Yeah. So this idea that, like, let's say you're totally correct and the soy pills worldview is just entirely about preferences. You can have subjective preferences and measure things objectively. So soy pill might have his preferences of how he wants the military to look, but you can still look at objective measures of speed, of intelligence, of strength, of all of these things when you're coming to these conclusions, when you're making these determinations. So those things are not necessarily based off of preferences, and they don't have to be, and we're not advocating for them to be.
Okay, so let me get this clear. You just said that subjectively you can have your preferences, but you can look at data objectively and appeal to the data. So it's basically off your preferences. So
yeah, no, Cooley, here's a good example, just because I know when it gets more complicated, you get a little confused. But no, because you're not going to get it, and I need to clarify this for you. Do you think it's a preference if I say I want the military to be able to defend against an attack?
I think that he's trying to explain it.
I'm just trying to explain. Like, would you say it's a preference that I want our military to be functional and not dysfunctional?
That's a very broad and open-ended statement. What do you
think it's a preference if I think the military should be able to defend the country from an attack of an invader? That is a preference.
And they should be able to kick the asses of our enemies.
This would be a preference as well.
Right. So it is a preference if you go vague and abstract enough. But obviously, everyone thinks that the military should be able to do the thing the military was designed to do. So you can say, oh, you just prefer that you don't want China to be able to take over. Yeah, sure. But obviously, when I say sexism, i.e. cutting 17% of our military off, would make us less functional and more susceptible to an attack, everyone can understand that means, oh, you want there to be less sexism because you want our military to be more functional. And then you can talk about preferences all you want after that, but everyone else can operate in the basis of what colloquially we talk about when we mean military effectiveness.
Yeah. But all you did was you just moved the goalpost to effects, and manipulation happens when you focus on the effects, when you go to the effects instead of getting to the cause of things. And this is what I'm sticking on. This is why you guys don't like it. It feels uncomfortable because I'm going right to the root of it. I'm going right to the root of everything, meta ethics, epistemology, the things that you believe to be where you derive your knowledge of truth and good and bad and all of these things that makes you feel uncomfortable. Guess what? The topic of the debate is sexism good? We've already demonstrated multiple areas where you conceded and you said that sexism is good.
You think racism
this is
good,
not the end of the debate,
Cooley.
Then I do not know what
Cooley, do you think racism is good?
Define racism.
Discrimination based on race.
Discrimination. Give me an example of how would you discriminate based off of race?
Yeah, so I'm Ryan Coogler and I want to hire the next Black Panther, and I say no white people.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider that to be necessary. It can be good. It can be bad.
Well, wait, what do you mean? How would that be bad?
It can be good. It can be bad.
Why would it be? Why would that be bad? Wait, no, don't move on. How would this example be?
In my worldview. So in my worldview, this can be good or bad.
Well, so dude, don't run. Why is it bad? Why is it good?
Why are you cutting me off again and saying don't?
Because you're running away, and I'm trying to pin you down, buddy.
I'm explaining to you my worldview. So do you want an explanation?
Okay.
Yes or no?
Sure. Tell me.
Okay, got it. So my worldview, which is Christian ethics, I appeal to divine command. Discriminating based off of someone's race, nothing else, only just race. You're not utilizing any reason, any logic, nothing at all. It's just solely discriminating based off of the color of someone's skin. In my worldview, this will reduce down to being bad. Okay. Yes.
So it's bad if Ryan Coogler says, I want a black guy to play Black Panther, just to be clear, based on Christian meta-ethics is what you said.
Well, no, that's not what I'm saying. It depends on...
Well, hold on. He's discriminating specifically based on the amount of melanin in his skin, no?
Okay, now you just once again, if it's based off of he written a script and the script is a black guy in it, then this is what he wants. This wouldn't be bad at all.
Okay, so you're saying
but he's discriminating based on race because of what he wrote in the script, to be clear.
If he wrote it, that's totally fine. This would be good.
Tag me in. We got to up the stakes. Okay, so
you're saying
racism
is good in certain examples.
You're saying that it's good, and it could be good in certain examples, and it can be bad in certain examples. And I gave my example.
Cool. So you said it would be good if Ryan Coogler picked a black guy, which I concede is totally true, obviously, right? Because that's what the point of writing the script to be a black guy is. So therefore, would you acknowledge? Let me finish. Would you acknowledge that saying racism is good? Cooley thinks racism is good, but has a completely different connotation. If I explained it as Cooley thinks it's okay to cast a black guy, and Cooley thinks it's okay to discriminate against people like in segregation.
What you're doing here is you're conflating the two. So when you cannot compare apples and oranges because you're comparing race and sex. When we're speaking about sex, there's a different capacity that the sexes have. When we're speaking about race, there's not necessarily a different capacity than they have in society. So these two things are comparing.
There are more
power than black people in society.
Yeah, hold on. There are racial differences between humans that we can track. We can track these patterns, right? Whether the NBA is not majority black because of anti-white discrimination, right? Like all of the fastest runners in the world don't come from African countries and African diaspora islands and stuff like this because of anti-white discrimination. It's because of differences. So I want to up the stakes a little bit because Cooley, you're right. You acknowledge that racism and certain things like sexism for certain things is acceptable, but you did draw a condition where you said that racism would be bad. And that condition was if it's based only and exclusively on the person's race, they're not using any other logic or evidence behind it. Do you want to clarify? That's what I heard you say.
Once again, even when he gave his example, he said that if Ryan,
I'm not using his example. His example.
Yeah, great. Sure. Great. So once again, listen, even when he gave his example, it proved
Forget his example. But I'm trying to just pin down for you what is the you were able to make a determination that there is bad racism. Can you just again make that definition?
Totally fine.
I'm going to kindly remind all of you, because all four of you have been doing it since the beginning. If we could mind the interruptions. I know when we feel something, we want to say it really loud and proud, but let's be mindful. We can't hear you if you're talking over each other. Nobody can hear you.
She's asking me to justify a reason. So what I'm saying is I already did. When
sorry. I literally just want trying to make sure that I steel man you. So you stated a condition for when racism is bad. I just want, if you could even just reiterate it, because I didn't want to put words in your mouth. And then I'm going to bring a different example, totally separate from soy pill. So if you could just state one more time for my benefit here, the condition under which racism is bad.
So so once again, so even in his example that soy pill said, which he was totally fine with, he said, okay, I see what you mean. So even when he said that, well, if a director writes a script and the script in it has a white guy, so he's looking for the white guy, he's not looking for a black guy, is that discrimination? Is that racist? I said, no, that's not racist. You get what I'm saying?
Wait, so it was racist, actually earlier, just to be clear, and you said it was good racism, and then you said it would be bad if he only did it because
no.
He said if he was hiring actors based on them strictly being black, not for a black.
That is what he's doing because he wrote a black person
for a black role. You get what I'm saying? And I broke it down.
You understand that he's discriminating by saying only black people can apply based on race, and this is fine.
Not when it's to play a black. If Marvel had hired only black people on the set, everything, you'd have a point here.
Hold on.
Marvel hiring a black man to play a black man isn't racism.
What Soypill is saying, doesn't actually
this
challenge.
Doesn't count as stupid pivot,
man. Hold on. Stop. Tally, I think you're trying to get into a point. If we could just let her get there, that way it'll help move the conversation forward.
She's giving him a little too much ground, Sarah. I don't like it.
Yeah, no, I probably.
What? He's being way too kind to them.
I'm a lady. I'm a lady. So again, I don't think that Soypil is not really saying anything against your point. He's calling it good racism or acceptable racism, a la good or acceptable sexism, like discriminating on the basis of sex for which bathroom you go into or something like this. So I think Soypil would make the same argument that if there's a role that was written for a woman that you should have a female playing it, maybe that's sexism. You are literally discriminating on who can be cast for this role on the basis of sex, but it's not bad sexism. So along these lines, when we're talking about racism, you said that would be an acceptable form of racism or not even racism. Fine, I completely agree with you. What would be a bad form of racism? Can you provide an example, or would I have an example that I want to work out with you? Whichever one you'd like.
I'll go ahead and give you one. So slavery would be a bad form of racism, meaning that when I think it was in the Constitution at one point where they looked at Black people as being like not even 3/5 of a white person. So, that would be, bad racism. You like that one? No. Do you want another one? And tell me how does
before you give another one, the reason
wait, let me
Sarah, go ahead and ask my question.
Callie, I want to piggyback what you said, because you did point out correctly that this is holding up a mirror to your guys' argument that somehow we've conceded by saying sexism is sometimes good insofar as bathrooms, as in racism is sometimes good insofar as casting for a Black role, but not saying, hey, obviously there are bad forms of racism, obviously there are bad forms of sexism, and we're arguing against those, not whether or not we should have gender segregated bathrooms. So if you want to actually engage with the point that we're making and not, oh, you think there should be separate bathrooms? Okay, debate over. That's why we're bringing up the racism example.
Yeah. So
wait, you
David,
also agreed to
hold
the
on,
labor laws.
David wanted to make a point, and then I want to hand it back to Tally, and then I'll hand it back to you. Speak easy in that order, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. So even when we're having this discussion and you guys are bringing up the example of race and you're trying to make a comparison to sex, the reason why it's comparing apples to oranges is because there's sexes have different capacities. Men and women, we are actually like different in many different areas when it comes to biology. It's not to say that races, like your ethnicity, is all the same too. No, races are different as well. There would be, certain capacities based off certain little categories. But when we look at it at an overall view, if we are comparing men and women and give them, men and men, no matter what the race is, and we give them the same opportunity, well, I would say in the same starting point, I would say that they would have the same capacity to reach said goal. I would say any goal that you go ahead and put in front of them, they would have any
goal.
I would
say if I took a suburban
that.
white male and a Afghani Taliban child and said, learn JavaScript in a week, do you think they'd have equal capacity to do that?
No, once again, you are putting culture in there now. You're putting
sure, that matters as well.
What we're speaking about is race. So I'm speaking about Mongoloid, Negroid, and Caucasoid. Those are the three races.
Yeah, actually, I walk back my question. I understand what you're saying now, actually.
Okay.
Okay. It was my turn, Sarah? I think so.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So again, I think the point that I'm trying to hammer out is if we're using the very loose definition of sexism that you guys are using, then we can make this comparison to racism. Because fine, maybe I'm acknowledging, I won't put soy in there, but maybe I'm acknowledging that under your definition of sexism, there are perfectly acceptable, mundane, even good, positive versions of this type of discrimination. But like the definition that Sarah read out, we're talking about unjust discrimination. So Cooley, you conceded that there would be forms of racial discrimination that would be not a big deal, even good, even makes sense, right? But it would be bad if it was unjust. And you said the word something to the effect of if you're not looking at the data, if you're only basing it on the basis of race. So in a similar vein to wanting okay. Again, I'm trying to steel man you here. I'm trying to be fair, but so let me get my point down, then you can pick whatever I said that was wrong. Yeah. Along the same lines of we should pull all women out of the military regardless of their role and regardless of their competency, I think that we should kick all Black people out of major cities because the statistics do show us that they are contributing to a significantly higher crime rate and like flight of white people out of these communities. So That is based on data. That's not just based on race, right? That's based on well-being and quality of life and crime statistics. What's wrong with that?
Yeah. So once again, in your worldview, that would make sense in your worldview because you appeal to utilitarianism and harm principle as well.
Fine,
so
in
you're
your
looking at
worldview.
data. In my worldview,
what's wrong with that?
Yeah, in my worldview, it's totally different, right? So in your worldview, something would be wrong with that. You can say that, well, actually, I don't think how you can find anything wrong with it, because if the data shows that it's good, then it has to be good. If the data shows that we'll have better outcomes if we discriminate based off of this race by utilizing what's best for the majority of the society, in your worldview, that would be good. This is why your worldview is dangerous.
Sure. So how about your worldview? Because I'm asking you.
Yeah. Once again, I don't even have to give my worldview because your worldview is preferences. It reduced down to preferences. So once again, I granted your worldview. No, I granted your worldview in the beginning of this debate. I granted it.
Why don't you just
based on preferences?
But I'm
to be fair, Cooley and Speakeasy, you are on the affirmative. Just to clarify that.
We are, yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely. I mean, earlier, Soy Pill, you agreed to the labor laws of keeping women away from chemicals that are going to hurt the reproductive health.
I think that the labor laws might be a little different from what I would advocate for. For example, better safety regulations as to who and who cannot operate certain machines that might expose them to said chemicals. But barring women from a position, just absolutely, no, I would not be in favor of that.
So you wouldn't be in favor of barring women from a position that is a risk to the reproductive health?
I think anyone who has any risks shouldn't be doing the job. And if that's women writ large, which I don't think is how this works in any of this case, yeah, I guess if that's the only way it's done, I'm willing to bet that we have PPE and all sorts of other things that are going to make this a job that's able to be done by plenty of people with no exposure to said chemicals. And you don't need to make a law that says no women allowed at this position.
Okay. And do you think we should draft women too?
No, I think no one should be drafted, but if a draft is necessary, then absolutely we should draft women.
So if it comes a time that a draft is necessary,
draft children?
You think we should draft the women too?
If the walls are closing in and we're last line of defense in Berlin, yeah, put the children, put them on the howitzers. I say yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So you just want to give up the chance of any survival.
Yeah,
no, I just said in an existential
what
situation.
Society has ever done this that survived?
I'm frustrated that neither of you.
Utilitarianism. So whichever brings the best result, that's what they're going to.
Would you consider an entire eradication of the human race, or I guess America, and if we want to get a little less specific, to be a bad result, or would you say that's just a preference?
Sorry, repeat it again.
Yeah, would you consider the existential eradication of all people on a country? Would that be a preference to say I don't want that to happen?
If that's your preference, yeah.
Okay. Well, I prefer not to have my country annihilated. If the only way to keep it from happening would be women and children on the front lines, I would. However, I think at that point you've probably already lost, and it's not going to make a huge difference. So, just to be clear.
Well, do you realize that in the late Roman Empire, what they tried to do was a military overextension and started sending the women to fight too? Do you know what the results of that was?
Do you think that was because they were overextended and desperately enlisted women, or do you think it was because
to reproduce their society? When you have no one to reproduce your society, society goes bye-bye.
Do you think that? Do you think that the low reproduction rates are because of the participation in the military of women at the current moment?
It's a part of it, and it's a part of the participation in the workforce.
If you had to put a percentage on it, would you say it's
DEI policy that we want to put in, that we need to, for some reason, bricklayers should, for some reason, consider hiring women, roofers too? Can you explain to me what reasoning a roofer has to hire a woman, put them on, can't regulate their body heat the same as men? Okay, they can't lift the 90-pound bundles that go up that men are carrying three at a time.
Hey, buddy, I've already conceded. If she can't do the job, she shouldn't be hired. It's easy as that.
Why should we do that?
Were hoping. You guys.
Why should I hire a woman for my roofing company?
You're really not listening. We just both said that's not something you should do. You guys were
hoping. You guys were hoping to argue against people who are like affirmative action for ladies who want to see equal representation of women in every field. Except that's not us. Those are not the opponents.
I'm pretty sure Soypill has called himself a male feminist one point. I may be mistaken.
Okay, that's still.
Okay, do you think me calling me that means that I want 50-50 outcome in every job?
No, I didn't say I called you that. I thought you called yourself that. I could be wrong, but I did ask.
I'll say it right now. I'm a male feminist. God damn it! Do you think that means I want 50-50
so then
outcome
you are
in every
for
job?
sexism.
Do you think that means I want 50-50 representation in all fields?
It wouldn't matter if you want 50-50 representation.
As a
feminist, are you doing something to change the high incarceration rate of men? As a feminist, are you out there advocating for men and fathers'
really
rights?
Curious about my
are you out there
questions
doing
or answers to this? You're just kind of
as
saying
a
things.
Feminist. Are you advocating?
Yeah, I actually do advocate for more
rights?
representation of men in the court system, which is unjust to them. Actually, so yes,
as a feminist.
Well, sure, if you want to say because I'm a feminist, in the same way I can say as a white man I do it, but I just advocate for it, period. The point is you were bringing up roofers, and both Tally and I will say if she can't carry the 90-pound things, if she can't regulate her body heat, if she's incapable of doing the job, she shouldn't have the job.
Yeah.
Okay, and would that be sexist? Yes or no?
If every single woman can't do it, I would say, yeah, I guess inherently, but I don't think it's sexist to say you must meet this merit and, it has nothing to do with your gender. It's just if you can meet it, you can meet it. Like, that's like saying, is men's sports sexist? Technically,
there's no
not really.
This is that NBA is a gender neutral sport. It's not a man's sport. It's a gender neutral sport. Women couldn't compete. That's why we have the WNBA. You understand that,
I'm
right?
aware. You're preaching to the choir. I know that women can't compete.
I got a quick question. One quick question for both of you too. So if the woman can meet the standard, or if she can't meet the standard, or she can meet the standard, you are for the woman having the opportunity in certain areas.
Sure.
Whatever it may be, it will still reduce down to a category. It's going to reduce. Let me finish. I know you're about to speak. Just let me get it out. You're not understanding the point, right? I'm going to explain it to you. Just listen and wait. It's going to reduce down to a category. And when it reduces down to a category, it's going to be based off of how you perceive it to be sexist or not. So you may view it as being negative, or you may view it as being positive. You may view discrimination as negative, or you can view discrimination as negative or positive. It can be good, it can be bad, based off how you perceive it, right? So this is going to reduce down to your preferences. So anything that you bring up is, since men and women are different, right? Everything is always going to reduce down in certain categories where you're going to view that some categories are good. We're going to view that some categories are good or bad, whatever it may be. It's still going to be sexist within itself, which means that if you appeal to just one of them, that if it reduced down to a category and it's sexist, then that's the end of the debate, because sexism is good for society.
You've reiterated this point. Hold on.
Times. You guys are repeating this.
Sorry, hold on. It's a bad argument. You are perhaps unknowingly, literally making the woke argument that if you see any type of discrepancy in the outcomes based on these groups, then it is racism. So if you see differences in racial outcomes, in academic achievement, in employment, in any of these things, that must be due to racism. You're making the same argument. You're saying that no matter what we have, it's going to come down to
one's based on biological distinctions. These other ones you keep naming are arbitrary lines.
They're not
you understand, right?
at all.
Race
is very good at explaining things, and you
explain to me what race is. What's race? What's race?
I mean,
you don't know, right? You don't know the answer, right? You're asking a question about something you don't know.
So, Speakeasy, do you think there are no such thing as racial differences?
What is race?
Do you think race is just the?
Why are you answering my question with a question? What is race?
Race is basically it has two different aspects to it, because race on the one hand is in the eye of the beholder, which means looking at someone, you can assume what their race is, but you don't necessarily know if you're correct. But these are based on biological evolutionary differences of different distinct people groups, right? Who develop differently in different parts of the world and now have different outcomes in various aspects of performance and ability and all of these things. So yes, the crude categories that we use, like black or white or brown or mongoloid, right? These don't necessarily get down to the differences that we're observing, but these are based on biological differences between people groups. It's not like, again, this is a very woke thing. Race is just a social construct, right? Well, yeah, kind of.
All that to say, race is whatever the fuck I say it is. Yeah.
I gave you a way longer answer than race is whatever I say it is.
No, but that's might as well have been what you said.
Not, I don't. Fine, sir. So, what is race to you? Now that I answered,
I'm not the one using race as an argument.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you guys have never actually stuck down to a definition. You'll only critique because you realize that all of your positions and definitions fall apart when we like ask even a single question about them.
Definition.
Okay,
and when I've been responding to things that are good, I'd use a definition that you would probably be okay with.
Isn't
like,
it subjective?
If you were to say things that
bad?
sustain survival, stability, functionality, advancement in society, that would be good for society. Wouldn't you say that?
Whoa, Speakeasy just literally joined our team because that's the exact argument that the Soy Pill and I are making. That
no, you aren't. You aren't making that argument. You aren't making that an argument whatsoever. I'm showing you your definition of good and how sexism fits your definition of good. Do you understand that?
We are against the unjust discrimination on the basis of sex
Who decides
only
what's just?
when it ignores
who decides what's just and what's good or bad?
Yeah, who decides just?
Who literally decides? The government, the ruling government at any point in time.
So just things are good? Is that what you're saying right now? Just things are good.
They
just to give you an example, back when slavery was allowed and it was justified to go catch a slave that ran away and bring him back to his slave owner and beat the shit out of him, I was justified under law. Was it good?
Yeah, morally bad, bad, legally justified. You didn't ask morally good or bad. When I'm using the word just,
is it good, Tally?
No, it's not good to have slaves.
Oh, okay. So just doesn't mean good. If you look in the back, I put the actual definition from the Merriam-Webster dictionary of sexism, and it's prejudice or discrimination based on sex.
Right.
I've been going by the definition.
The reason
of
you
sexism.
have to keep going back to this, and the reason we brought up the race thing, is there are obviously good forms of sexism when you discriminate against sex.
Race is an arbitrary, socially constructed line. Sex is a biological, objective standard.
Why does it matter? There are both ways that both of these things are good.
I can't believe you're a
They're
science
literally
denialist.
comparable, buddy.
A science denialist?
Yeah, you are literally a woke. These are the gayest arguments ever. Race is actually just a social construct.
These are the gayest arguments ever. Good one.
In their society, like we have a tremendous amount of science that goes against that. Yes.
Yeah, that's her word.
Still my favorite. Still my favorite derogatory word.
Well,
say the F slur if it was allowed. I know it.
Okay, so let me maybe try to bridge the gap here. So sexism defined says prejudice, stereotyping, or discrimination typically against women on the basis of sex. So the word discrimination, I went and pulled that, and it says discrimination is the unfair or less favorable treatment of a person or group based on protected characteristics such as race, gender, age, religion, disability, or sexual orientation. So it is tied in there if you like take the definition of it, right? I think most people understand one thing comparable to another just based off of the word discrimination and how we as Americans understand it. Go ahead.
Just the fact that we're utilizing the Google definition and we're utilizing it because we would perceive that, well, we're going to this source because it's a good source. And the fact that Google in itself with the definition of sexism is because they say they put in their women. They don't put men and women. So Google itself is sexism, and we're utilizing this Google definition because we perceive that the Google definition is good, which is in itself good for society.
I perceive the Google definition as bad because it should say men too.
Yes, well, in your preference, yeah, in your worldview.
Well, it says especially. So it says the one that's Speakeasy sent says prejudice or discrimination based on sex, and then it also says especially discrimination against women.
Especially against discrimination against women, not against women and men. So the Google definition itself is sexism, and we're utilizing it because we think that it's good, which means that sexism is good within itself. How many times can I refute the arguments quick and easy?
How are you?
Debate. Let's do panel. Let's get some good arguments up here.
Hold on. I'm trying to understand. How are you perceiving that as good?
Okay, I'll tell you it again. So
I want to make sure I understand what you're saying here.
Yeah, I'll say it. So the simple fact that when I typed it into when I typed in sexism, right? The reason why we're going to Google is because we trust Google to give us a definition that we would perceive to be right, which we would perceive to be good. And Google in itself, their definition of sexism is sexist because they did not include men. They only included women in the definition. This would conclude that, well, sexism has to be good since we're all utilizing this Google definition. And
that's why I disavowed. I disavowed the Google definition. It should say men in there too. Also, does anything in your Christian meta ethics tell you why you should or should not trust Google?
It doesn't say men aren't included. It says based on sex, and then it says especially,
meaning that appealing to the bad things. It's appealing to the negative things towards women, not the negative things towards men. So the Google definition is sexist in itself, and we're all appealing to it as it is good because we're all utilizing it in this debate.
We're all. I disavowed Google. I'm disavowing Google right now.
So what's your definition of sexism then, man?
Discrimination based on sex.
That's it?
Yep.
Where'd you get that from? Your preferences?
A bunch of different things I've read, and they all conglomerated into my brain as a definition that I spurted out all on my own.
Fair enough.
Okay, cool. Do you think that it's sexist to have a bathroom that is only for women?
Yep.
Okay, cool. We did it. Sexism's good. Now let's talk about what you actually want to talk about, which is whether or not women should be able to vote, serve in the military. I don't know why this has taken yet again an hour and a half for you to just keep walking back.
I've mentioned other things too. It's just like you do this thing where you interrupt while people are talking, and then you're complaining because we can't get to an actual argument.
How about you just ask a question on voting if you want to get to it, and we can get down to it, man. Go ahead.
Well, we tried. Which country where women can't vote would you prefer? Would you think that was a better, based on your, no, sorry, not preference, based on your Christian meta ethics, would you say would be a morally better country?
Yeah. So under my worldview, it doesn't matter because I granted your worldview. But
we're granting your worldview.
Yeah, actually, yeah, we grant your worldview.
I would utilize.
I think the Christian God is real and His word is the truth.
Yeah, no, you don't. That's a lie.
No, I did. I'm granting it right now.
That's totally fine. If you do, can you justify that?
No, I read it in the book.
Okay, just because you read it in the book, can you justify that the Christian God is the real true God? Can you justify?
Well, I think there's pretty good evidence that Jesus rose after 3 days, and I find it the most compelling religion. All the other ones really don't speak to me. So Christian God is the one true God, yeah.
Yeah. See, you can't even justify. The thing is, if you're trying to do an internal critique and grant someone's worldview, you would have to understand their worldview in order to grant it. The thing is, I understand your worldview. This is why I granted it. But I'll go ahead and
I'm
entertain this a little bit. I'll go ahead and entertain your question a little bit here. So essentially what you're asking about what period of time or country was it ever good with women not voting?
No, right now, not period of time. Because you can look back and when no women had any rights whatsoever, there were certain countries that did better than others. But now that women writ large have entered the workforce in almost every good country, I'm curious what country where they haven't or can't vote is somehow better.
Yeah. So once again, you are assuming that I think that women shouldn't vote. Under my worldview, I don't think that. I think that women, a lot of people shouldn't vote. Men and women shouldn't vote. I think you should have some stake in the game in order to vote. Now, can I appeal to a country? Time would have to be in. So like, in the early 1900s, before women had the chance to vote. And even when this country started at a certain time, only people that had this certain stake in the game could vote. So like black people not being able to vote because they were slaves,
that was
when
fine.
When it's based off of race, no. When it's based off of sex, yes.
Okay, so just to be clear, you said I wouldn't advocate for women not being able to vote, but your preferred country is the early 1900s where women couldn't vote. So you do want that, but also fewer other people to vote, not just women.
Well, but fine. He doesn't want to take away the vote from women. So can you give us an example? This is what, like, Soipil and I were just begging, like, if the only forms of sexism that if you're arguing sexism is good because women have their own restrooms, the WNBA.
No, we're not arguing that. That's not what we're arguing. We're all meaning our
because men are
argument.
chivalrous. So then give us.
And why are you
examples.
conceding every time we admit that that's true?
What forms of discrimination on the basis of sex, i.e., sexism,
So
are you
once
calling
again-
for in our society that don't exist already today?
So we take the affirmative position that sexism is good for society. One of the reasons is because it's necessary. You can't get rid of sexism in society because men and women are inherently different. We have biological differences.
Agreed.
So even when we try to break things down and we have standards and X, Y, Z, it's always going to reduce down to certain categories. And in your worldview, based off your preferences and how you perceive the good and bad, you may think that this sexism is good or this sexism is bad.
Okay, cool. So fine. Let's take all that. So then my next question will be, do you think that our society is properly sexist, or would you take it further? So you're arguing that there's that sexism is essentially inevitable, that it's a good thing because the sexes are different. I agree that sexes are very different.
He's arguing that sexism is when men and women are different, just to be clear.
True, but fine. So again, do you think that we are calibrated to the correct, precise level of sexism, or would you like to see more? And if so, where? In what form?
Yeah, so
because it's not voting. So
that would be something different as well too. Once I said, even when it comes to voting, I would say that currently right now, everybody can vote. You can vote when you're 18. I don't even think that you should be able to vote when you're 18. I think that you should be able to vote if you have some stake in the game, whether if you're man, women, or black or white. You need some stake in the game, right?
What is stake in the game?
So meaning that, like, if you are in the military, if you've done X amount of community service, if you're and with maintaining and keeping up with the infrastructure, like having in certain career fields, if you are like surgeons and doctors, things like that,
where you podcasters should be able to vote.
Where you're actually
shouldn't we
to society, then I think that
let's
you should
move
have
past voting, because Cooley
vote.
has already conceded that he doesn't want to draw lines on the basis of sex. He would have other criteria.
Yeah,
so then correct. Where in our society do you think that sexism has not gone far enough? Where would you like to see more discrimination on the basis of sex implemented?
Okay, so more discrimination based off of sex. I would say when it comes to abortion. I think that currently women have it's so sexist, and women have all full bodily autonomy on who is born in America. They have all the rights when it comes to who's born in America, and we've seen how that's detrimental. We see that we are below replacement level. It's supposed to be 2.1 babies per woman, but we're at 1.6 babies per woman. So if we actually granted more rights to men as well, this would still be considered sexist, though. So this would still be a good thing in my worldview. I think we would see less, divorce rates. Even I think on contraceptives, all of these contraceptives that we have, women can take a plan B all the way to a plan Z, which
what's
it's an
plan
incentive.
Z?
Abortion.
It's basically abortion, often a baby, but you got a plan B, you got birth control, you got all of these. I think it's 16 different methods of or processes of contraceptives that women have currently in society today. But I would say that, and we see the negative side effects, that women are pretty much incentivized to be more promiscuous because they can take a plan A all the way to a plan Z. So I don't think that that's good. So
okay, but so what's the prescription there?
Well, he's obviously saying get rid of birth control and abortion, right? But also he says negative insofar as like what? Negative what? Your preference?
Got that.
Well, I know she didn't get it, but she's assuming you're saying something smarter, but you take a long time to say something really stupid. So
I see.
Well, no, I just want him to cut to the. I just want him to cut to the point because I feel like he's jumping around a little bit. So he starts with abortion and says that men should have more rights in this realm, and that would still be sexist, but it would be good. So I'm curious: A, what rights do you want men to have in this realm? And B, again, you talked about the negative side effects about different forms of birth control, but I would like you, yes, to just come out and state your prescription as someone in the affirmative, arguing that sexism is good for society and that you want to see further sexism. I would like you to state your positions in the affirmative.
Yeah, and once again, it's always going to be good no matter what. It's inherent. It's sexism is just the reality of the world. But what other positions do you want me to give?
Well, the point, Cooley, is if you're saying it's always going to be good because men and women are different, that's a very different position from we should discriminate against women in this way, because that would be good.
I misspoke when I'm saying it's always going to be good. When I'm saying that it's necessary. Like you can't get rid of sexism.
I mean, we got rid of women not being able to work. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
That would still be sexist.
Letting women work is sexist.
So letting women vote and work. What did you say? Vote or work?
Well, both, either one.
Okay, yeah, letting women work, it would still be sexist. You want me to explain? Because we see currently right now.
Because there's a disparity in the jobs that they take. Is that why?
Yeah, and most
women working
would say that
women not working is sexist.
Disparity does not equal discrimination. This is the same thing with racism. Disparity in outcomes does not equal discrimination. Just because we allow women to work and they show up less representatively in various jobs does not mean sexism or discrimination. These are just differences.
And if you define both women working and not working as sexism, then what's the point of having the word sexist?
Yeah, no, based on my worldview, it does not. You claim to understand my worldview, but you have not been able. You have not been able.
How do you
Cooley,
define?
can you? Maybe we can clear this up. Cooley, can you steelman Tally's position in your words?
Yeah. Her to steelman her position. She's essentially saying that, Cooley, basically what you're saying is it's always going to reduce down to differences between the sexes in regards to certain career paths or things that they would choose, but it is not discrimination. So she's saying that it's not discrimination. And what I'm telling her is, did I steelman that correctly or no?
You kind of did your own argument in your steelman of hers, to be fair, but you can try.
You were saying what she said. You said she was saying your argument was.
Yeah, that's what she was telling me. My argument was I was steelman in a position.
What is Tally's position? Not her thoughts on you.
Oh, that's what you told me to steelman her position. I thought you were saying to steelman her position on me.
No, you're making assumptions about my worldview, right? Because I said, for example, disparity does not equal discrimination. And you said, well, in your worldview, it does. And I said, the fuck it doesn't. So do you understand my worldview that you claim to be? You claim that we can only speak in terms of me and Soy Pill's worldview, because unlike us, who does not understand your worldview, you understand ours perfectly. That's why you are able to participate in an internal critique of our worldview.
I'll still man you guys' worldview or in your position. So essentially, you're saying that discrimination is sexism is bad for society because it produces negative effects where people will be discriminated based off of like if women didn't have the right to vote, this would be considered bad. If women didn't have the right to an abortion, this would be considered bad, right? Is that correct?
That's like the possible way you could steal my just like, because we think it's bad. Do you know why we think it's bad that women can't work or vote?
I already went through that because of utilitarianism. You think that, if it produces the good outcomes for people, then it has to be good for society.
Right. So like when you brought up birth rate and how we're below 2.1 replacement rate, why would it be bad if we went below 2.1?
In my worldview, that would be bad, is because then we have to bring in immigrants and we can't sustain our current economy.
Wait, that's the only thing we could possibly do? We couldn't say incentivize women to have more kids?
But we would have to do that. Then we would have to.
Wait, aren't you making a consequentialist argument as well?
Of abortion.
But yeah, but why is it bad?
How can they have more kids? How can we incentivize them to have more kids and still keeping abortion around?
Whoa. Cooley just completely gave credence to our worldview. He said by the way, I agree that we need to increase the replacement rate and get it above, get it at 2.1, that we are actually replacing our population. But he said that the reason that having it at 1.6 is bad is because then we have to open our borders and bring in immigrant labor and stuff like this. That sounds like you're making a utilitarian argument about the well-being of our society and not something based on your Christian worldview of the world. So can you tell us
Are you going to debate him about what God says is good?
Yeah, we're heading
of course he's giving you that worldview. What are you going to debate about?
You guys are hopping back and forth. If you want to argue worldviews, we can do it this way. And I'm totally happy to argue worldviews. Please define good. How do you determine what's good and what's bad?
You already know how we determine good and bad. The problem is you keep using bad, and then it's like, well, are you using bad in our sense of bad? Because I can clearly point to you how it would be bad for women not to be able to work in our worldview. In your worldview, you don't want to give it because you're like, well, I'll just operate in your worldview, and then you don't actually say why the sexism would be good in that case. So that's why we're a little confused, I guess you could say.
I mean, you haven't asked the question on that.
Which question would you like me to ask?
Do you want me to go ahead and, if you put it into question form, I would answer the question. They're very bad at asking questions.
What
you guys
about
haven't
1900s society, early 1900s society was better than we have it now? Was it the rampant polio? Was it the poverty? Was it the lower life expectancy? Was it the world wars? Was it like everyone? Yeah, like what about it was better?
So who said that? I think that is overall better. I do think that there
when
are
you
some
said
things
my ideal society
is better.
In time in America,
no, I didn't say that it was ideal.
You meant it would be better.
Specific question about something else, Toy. Right? You're asking us a question on something else. So your question again is, ask it again. So I hear it clearly.
Just to be clear, women suck. Can we all just agree? Women are awful. We just all hate them. I just wanted to say that while she's gone because I don't want to repeat what my real opinion
I'm
is.
so fucking here, you asshole.
You go, oh, hi, Tolly.
I keep my headphones in. Okay? I'm here when you can't see me. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm asking you, what would your ideal society that is probably more sexist or has fewer rights for women look like? And you went back to the 1900s. And I said, well, what about that is better than what we have today? Now, you can say, I think it would be better if we got rid of abortion.
Taking it out of context, I went there to express when we were speaking about voting. So you're not still meaning the position properly.
Okay.
So we were specifically speaking about voting. That's why I went back to the 1950s and stuff like that.
But what about it is better specifically on the voting prospect? I'm not sure I understand. See, when I say better, I think that it's better on all those metrics I gave you. You say better because
I'll explain. You want me to go ahead and explain? So once again, so I think that feminism is not good for society. And when women got the right to vote, which, they vote for things that's not even beneficial to them. They think that is beneficial to them, but it's really not beneficial to them. So once again, women got the right to vote. This is why they abort 1 million babies per year. The fact when women got the right to vote, they voted themselves to be for abortion. This is why it's legal, because this is what they voted for. You get what I'm saying?
A majority of men also vote for abortion.
Great. I know men did vote for it, but if we didn't have any women voting, guess what? We wouldn't be below replacement level.
Okay,
so
wait, hold on.
To give a reason?
Wait, no, this is perfect. No, I thank you. It's been an hour and a half. You have finally made a prescription. Women should not be allowed to vote because they will vote for abortion. Would you say that is a good argument on your end, or what you are kind of advocating for in some sense?
Once again, so when we're speaking about voting, I never said that women shouldn't vote. This is when a different topic. So you guys don't know how to have conversations and stick to one. You'll utilize something that I said in another conversation and try to map it onto here when I was making a different argument for something else. I gave you my position when it comes to voting. Mm-hmm. Even Tally knows it. This is why she moved on. Once again, when it comes to voting, I am for. Sure. My prescription is for men and women. It's not based off of sex or race or anything like that.
Right.
Having stake in a game.
Okay, so you wouldn't have a problem if
wait.
If there was mandatory civil service and women voted for abortion, would you be okay with that?
No, I'm not for abortion at all.
But so you'd be fine with women voting for it even if because they're only voting based on the sake of the game. You don't want to outlaw them from voting. You would just be upset with the outcome.
Yeah, I think that a lot of women. So like, I think that if how you have stake in a game if you have a nuclear family. So of course, women wouldn't be going into military. Oh, well, I want to vote. Well, let me go into the military. Men are still going to overwhelmingly be at the helms of the military.
Yeah,
they're going to be the majority of the military. They're going to be the majority of even maintaining the infrastructure and stuff like this. So what this would do is incentivize women to stay with a man and lock down with and not divorce their man, have a nuclear family, get married, and this right there would then give them the ability to have a vote. So it'd be one family voting. That would be something as well.
So you advocate for only family units to be able
not
to vote.
Only family units, and if you have stake in a game, because not everyone is going to have a family. So
that's
then
why
you have to have stake in a game. So then let's just correlate this. So since this prescription is going to incentivize women, because this is one of the ways where they can still, get at least some say in a game if they lock down with a man and build a nuclear family. Well, generally speaking, men are the head of the household, so they would still have to yield to their man, right? So since they're yielding to their man in the household, they're less likely to abort their baby.
Okay, so having civil service in any capacity doesn't necessarily incentivize having a nuclear family, although I could concede that based on metrics, which is my worldview, there are certain aspects of the nuclear family that are really, really good. Whether or not you would want to restrict people's vote based on whether or not they do that, I think is a different argument. But I think we're finally getting to this idea where you want women to be in a more subservient nuclear family positions where they can only vote if they're in that thing that you think is furthering society, no?
Once again, you said only. No, I didn't say only. They can still have stake in the game if
what are the ways that
stake in a game if once again, if community service, if they you can get into certain job fields, but women just choose not to get into these certain job fields that maintain our infrastructure. So if they get into certain job fields that do maintain our infrastructure, they can go ahead and vote. If they get married to a man, not a woman, they got to get married to a man, they can vote. At least they'll have some, influence ability to say something to the man so the man could then cast that vote.
So Cooley, I'm not voting for you on this basis, but I don't think anything that you're saying right now is like totally ridiculous, but I think it falls perfectly in line with me and Soy's arguments for all types of sexual discrimination, which is we should be doing it based on other standards, other criteria. Those criteria might very well correlate with sex because the sexes are different, but we shouldn't make we shouldn't make the deciding factor what someone's sex is. Rather, we should make it their abilities, their interests, their efforts, or in the case of voting, their stake in society.
This would be sexism. So would it be good for society? It
sounds like you would what be good for society?
What you just explained, would it be good for society?
Yes.
Then that's sexism. That's sexism. Sexism is good for society. How many times?
No.
Everything
so again,
reduces down to
sexism. Allow me to translate.
Because,
hold on. Let me translate. What she's saying is what you're saying for the vote, Cooley, is that like they need to have some kind of stake in America. Essentially, have a nuclear family, a woman married to a man, so on and so forth. But these are like behaviors. These are characteristics these aren't biological. These are behaviors. So it's not sexual discrimination. It's doing exactly what Tally and Soypill are saying. For instance, to compare it would be like getting into the military. You have to pass, maybe certain jobs or certain things. You have to pass a certain standardized testing. Yeah. Male or female doesn't matter. Just the characteristics, the behaviors that you have to portray. So you're actually saying the same thing that they are in your argument there.
Yeah. No. And what the difference, what I don't think that they notice that even if it all reduces down to a category, I don't think you guys understand, but let me explain it a different way. I'll explain it a different way.
What is the category? Could you just label these categories before you explain it? Could you just label them so we just know what you're talking about?
You already labeled it. So just like Sarah just said, men and women, it's not just the biology thing. It's going to go ahead and they're going to go off of interest. They're going to go off of skill level, what they're good at, what they're passionate about. They're going to go
those are
into
based in biology.
They're going to go into certain fields, right? And even when you reduce it down, the majority of the men and women are still going to go into different categories because it's all based off of the biology.
That is not sexism because the determining factor, the discrimination is not because it is not discriminating on the basis of sex. You might have outcomes that are heavily clustered by sex, but the actual discrimination, the standard that you are putting is not about sex. So it is not discrimination.
So if you have a standard, if you have a standard that men are more likely to hit than women, you don't think that is a sexist standard?
No, of course not.
Okay.
I'm glad it took us 2 hours to figure out what we do.
So, David, if you and I had a jumping contest, I'm 5'2". We have a picture of you and I next to each other. It's a very stark difference between us, right? You're very, very tall. I'm very, very short. Okay. So if you and I had a jumping contest and whoever hits the 7-foot mark can move forward to the next level or something.
Yeah.
I obviously can't hit it, right? You probably can reach it with just putting your arm up. So is that sexism or can I just not jump that high?
So in my worldview, I would say that you just can't jump that high, right?
Right. And
in their worldview, let me break it down to you. And they keep shaking their head no, but you keep appealing to it. You keep making fatal mistakes. And your worldview, it still reduces down to sexism. You know why?
No, you keep saying that when we both keep saying no, we don't think this is sexist. You're like, well, actually, you do think it's sexist. Like we don't. Like, why do you want us to believe us this?
It's not based off of discrimination.
So how would you? Okay, let's break it down. Is sexism? Is it prejudice? Is it discrimination? And is it stereotyping?
If you are making a determination on the basis of sex only, that is sexism.
Okay,
let me switch it for you, David. If me and another very tall girl do the same test, she hits the 7-foot mark just by reaching up because she's 6'5" and she's a Amazon.
Yeah,
okay,
Sarah,
and I
still
can't hit
I get it. Yeah, let me explain it in a different way.
It's not based on
this time.
Let me
explain
it in a different way. Don't worry. Yeah, no,
he's got it this
time. It's very, very simple.
Another shot.
Because one, if we're going to use the Google definition of sexism, it is prejudice, it is discrimination, and it is stereotyping based off of sex. That is the Google definition. If you want to use a different definition, please tell me what your definition is.
That sexism is discrimination based on sex, right? And we
can get rid of the stereotyping.
Stereotyping.
So you can see the debate.
But obviously, colloquially, when we're talking about sexism, we don't mean, oh, we have different categories for sports because that's sexist. But we both agree, we all agree that's totally fine.
Totally fine.
We're talking about
this. I got it.
Keeping women from certain roles because of just their gender, not because of their abilities, but because of specifically, oh, you're a woman, you can't do this job. If she literally physically can't do it.
Let me ask you a question. How can you make that determination and put it on everyone if your worldview reduces down to preferences? So your preferences is just as valid as everyone else's. So it will come down to how you perceive stereotyping, how you perceive discrimination, how you perceive prejudice. So Sarah, even when you give let me just land my plane because I don't think y'all understand
You're
it.
fucking 9/11
Sarah, even when you give the example
landed,
and you say, well, Sarah, you say, well, David, I'm much shorter than you. Cooley, you're much taller. I'm 6'4". Sarah, how tall are you?
5'2".
5'2". So if we was in a jumping contest, I would win. Now, based off of how you two would perceive it, if I just always keep winning all the jump contests, or even if I win this one, based off the perception, then someone can perceive it as, well, it's unfair that he won.
Yes, there are retards out there, but
why do I have to validate
because you believe in preferences.
Why do you?
No,
wait,
you
hold
don't
on. So you keep
understand.
bringing up
It's
this preference thing, and this is why I had a problem with your vagity, because your
It's not
implication is
vagity.
that no, it is, because your implication is
very
that all
on
preferences are
point.
equal. You know, I can say that all cultures have some sort of merit to them, but some of them are fucking dog shit, and some of them aren't. And this, just because I acknowledge that they're both cultures, and all of these are subjective based on your upbringing and what you formed and how that like anthropological like development happened, doesn't mean that they're good or bad based on my worldview. I don't have to honor someone else's preference just because it's a preference. I can say it's a dog shit preference. Now that's my preference to say it's a dog shit preference.
But at the end of the day, valid? No one said you honor it. You're moving the goalposts. Stop it, Soy Pill. You're moving the goalposts. You're talking about honor. I'm speaking about if it's as valid. If your worldview reduces down to preferences, my preferences versus your preferences. What I think is good, what I think is bad, is much different than yours. It would still have to be just as valid as yours.
Fine.
Hold on.
Not an entailment. Hold on.
Okay. Okay. Children. Tally, go ahead and step in because I think maybe you can.
I've been chill, but y'all just dumb.
Okay.
Just stupid.
Acknowledging the reality that people's perception is literally subjective, whether we like that or not, whether we think that's good or not, whether we agree with someone else's subjective perception, that's not getting at the heart of the debate here. So yes, Soy Pill and I have our preferences.
That does get at the heart of the debate.
You also have your preferences as well. Us acknowledging subjective preferences does not entail us supporting every other person's subjective preference. Soy Pill and I think that we have the good subjective
no one said
preference,
supporting.
and
no
we
one said
would want
honor.
to fight.
You're using
We would
wrong
want to
words.
fight. We would want to fight. We would want to fight for our preference.
No, I didn't. I said, is it as valid? No one said honor. I said, you're saying honor.
You said
I'm not saying, I'm not using those words. So once again, can you guys still man my position? My position is very simple.
They are valid insofar as they exist. Different preferences are valid insofar as people sincerely hold them. That doesn't mean that I want to implement them in equal ways. And because we all have our subjective preferences, everyone's going to go out there and lobby on behalf of their subjective preferences, and may the best preferences win out. And best at that point will be defined by what the overall group believes, I guess.
Right. And the reason I keep saying vagaries, Cooley, is because you have yet to present an alternative to everyone has subjective preferences, as opposed to what else would you consider everyone's individual life experience in which they try to impose on other people other than a preference? That's why it's vague, because you can just say that about literally everything.
Well, under your worldview, it is everything is relative. So yeah, man.
Well, what is the alternative? Can you give me an alternative?
Yeah, it's divine command. Do you know anything about divine command in Christian ethics or no?
Prefer that certain religion is your preference, but I would say it's
once
just
again,
as valid as
like I said, this is why I grant your worldview.
Right, because you can't defend your religion because you can just say, I read it in a book.
No, it's totally fine. This is why I grant your preferences and your worldview is because
yours are indefensible.
Because
I understand.
You think that mine is all preferences as well. This is why I go ahead and grant it. So
Cooley, I don't know. I concede. I don't think. No, you're right. I don't think it's a preference.
It all reduces down to preferences.
So basically,
it's going to reduce down to force.
That's not true.
Gentlemen, I'm going to put you on a speed date and make this really uncomfortable if you keep talking over each other. All right, go ahead, David. Finish your thought.
Cool.
Soy.
Got it. So if it's just preferences, Soy Pill, this is why I granted your worldview, because even if I try to push forth an argument and to justify my worldview, you're going to say God not real. You're just delusional. These are just your preferences, right? Fair enough. So now I'll just grant it. Everything is preference based. The debate conversation is sexism good for society? Good would be like, that's a moral argument, right? Mm-hmm. That's a moral argument. So how each person defines good or bad. And your worldview, morality is subjective. You define your own good and bad. Under my worldview, I appeal to Christian ethics. Morality is objective.
You said you concede mine.
Yeah, morality is objective. So what I'm saying is we can just grant your worldview and say that it's preference based. And my question to you is, it doesn't matter what example you bring up. It doesn't matter what category it is, or if you're saying, well, it's not sexist, but it's all going to be based off of preferences, and preferences is based off of how you perceive things, right? Perception. That's what it's based off of.
Right. So we would need some sort of metric to measure.
I'm still speaking. Just let me land my plane. Just let me land my plane.
You never do, though.
If it reduces down to preferences and is based off of your perception of said thing, then my question to you is, how is your preference more valid than my preference?
Right, which is why we brought up metrics of longevity and better society and happiness. And you say, well, I don't really know about those.
Still
and that's all
preferences.
subjective too. But these are objective metrics of things. Yeah, everything's a preference in my worldview. In your worldview, there's a objective God. You can't prove it. So on the end of the day, we're all going to be just saying, well, this is good because I think it's good.
About it.
That's how everything works.
The topic of the debate is sexism good? If everything reduces down to preferences,
so
I think that sexism is good. So therefore, sexism is good.
Well,
right, and I
okay,
can
so
give
then
you objective metrics by which your sexism is not good. Like when you point to the 1900s and everything is just worse on many, many levels. And then you keep deflecting to, well, you just prefer that it's not that bad. You think bad there is by certain metrics, but I prefer those metrics to be that way. Well, yeah, sure. If you go into every debate saying, well, you don't believe in the objective God, therefore we couldn't possibly agree on anything, like, cool. I don't know why you're here. Do you want to talk
my
about
follow-up question? You're here if you think that everything is preferences. Why are you here if everything is preferences and you can't validate any argument?
Children. Cooley, I think what Soy's trying to say is, okay, we're all on the level of, yes, we all have our preference, but what is your defense, right? How do you back up your preference? Like,
why do I need a defense?
Mine's good is better. Yeah. Why do I need to argue in this debate? Okay, I guess you concede and we win.
We've already gave you arguments.
What metrics were you talking about?
We went through all of them, bro.
Listen, that's enough.
Being
That's
worse.
enough.
What metrics,
Hold on.
Psycho?
Hold on.
Brought them up. I can say them again.
Cooley, you already put everyone on the equal playing ground by saying, I agree, we'll just go by preferences. Okay, now we're all there. We're all on my preferences.
Yep.
However, Soy Pill is taking it the next step, and he's defending his preferences by providing the backup, the background, the
and we defended ours.
So forth.
We gave so many different examples. We gave examples on Speakeasy gave so many examples in his opening and then reiterated those examples. I gave many examples when we're speaking about you can say bathrooms, you can say abortion, you can say women having the ability to vote, which I think that it should be. Some would say that it's still going to be sexist because it's still going to be the majority of men under my worldview, even when it comes to voting anyway. So yeah, man, like we went through these arguments already. Like we're almost 2 hours in. We went through them and they conceded on all of them. They literally conceded on all of them.
Actually, I already
Soy over here mentioning like metrics, right? Like, so you mentioned the 1900s, how it's better now. So in the US, right, in 1950s, US produced 40% of the world's GDP. It's down below 24% now. The median household income was enough for one man to support a family of 4 or more. Now you need 2 people working just to survive. What metrics exactly are you talking about that it's so much better now than it was in the 1900s?
Okay, so GDP is an interesting one because we're still the #1 GDP in the world. What market share of that we produce is kind of irrelevant to me. Globalism is great. I like that certain things, right? Because certain things being produced out of China or Taiwan because it's cheaper and allows more people to have them, I think is a great thing. More people are allowed to have TVs, microwaves, refrigerators. People live longer. People die less from disease. We have better technology.
And if we ever
Idiots are allowed to buy microphones and computers.
We don't have access to
shit opinions thanks to women participating in the workforce. And you know what? I'm fine with that. I'm fine with people making money off being this retarded. So yeah, I think it's a much better place. If you want to go live in the 1920s, I'd love to hear why you think it would be better.
Well, I just mentioned a few things. So just to be clear, you think
so
it's
you
better,
would travel back in time
now
to get a
that
better median household income?
Hold on, Soy. Let him respond now.
So it's better now, just to be clear, that the median household income used to be one man could support a family of 4 or more. Now you need 2 incomes just to survive. You think it's better now?
I think depending on what the job is, I think that there are problems right now we have with wages. I believe real median wages have actually increased since then, but I don't know if you know what a real median wage is.
Okay, so I know
do you know what a real
to,
median wage
like
is?
to talk to people like they're stupid,
Do you know?
right?
Well,
but like,
I am not talking to you like you're stupid because I enjoy it. I'm talking to you like you're stupid because you're a retard.
Do you think
do you
it's
know what a
better
real
now
median
that
wage
it
is?
takes more?
My
Do
God,
you know what a real median wage is?
This guy, man.
Can you answer my question? Do you know?
Yeah,
what a
I'm
real
not going to
median
play
wage is?
your whole. I think I'm
understanding
smarter, right?
economics is
I'm trying to ask
hard.
you
I
questions,
understand.
and
Why don't you
you're
go make
trying to
another
dodge
Post
them
Malone
real
album?
quick.
Do you know what a real median
Yeah.
wage is?
Well, if you don't want to answer that one, what about the marriage rates being at record
Why don't
highs
you
compared
first?
to
I
now
think
that they're
marriage rates
lapsing? Do you
being
think that's
lower right
better?
now is probably better because people were locked into marriages that they couldn't escape thanks to no fault divorce. But again, do you know what a real median wage is?
Is that what you think? You think that everyone was just slaved into their marriages?
Did I say everyone, or did I say that a lot of people were?
So most people? Is that what you're trying to argue?
I don't even know if
Just
it was
a lot.
most, but
What's
enough
a lot?
people that the reason
What's
is
a
a lot.
lot?
That's if you can
5
bar
people's
people,
a lot.
if you can bar people from exiting a marriage based on nothing
argument,
but
man.
you need to have a legitimate reason instead of hey I'm unhappy. Yeah, at least a bunch of people, as we see, there are more divorces now. We're
Yeah, and
unhappy
look
and
what
couldn't
it's
divorce
done.
before.
So,
What has
wait,
it done?
it's better that it's easier.
It is better
to
that more
divorce.
people are able to divorce when they want to. Yeah. Can you answer my question
Okay,
about what a real median wage
how's
is?
how's that working on children? Is it
How's
better
that
for
working
children?
on children that more people are having
is the
divorces?
nuclear family a bad thing then?
I think overall it's probably a good thing, but I don't think it should be enforced.
Oh. If it's a good thing, then why are you for no fault divorce?
Did you hear the second part of my statement, or were you not listening?
I've heard the second part of your statement.
What did I say?
But how is it?
Well, hold on. You'll have
how
to answer your question.
How about low crime rates?
You'll have to answer
better now that the crime's higher or what?
Wait, can you answer your question with my answer that you were listening to?
Crazy, man.
Can
How
you
is it?
answer
How
your
is it a
question
good
with my
thing?
answer?
Yeah, how is it a good thing if you just admitted that? So you
That
said
I
the
like
nuclear family is a good
families,
thing. Yeah, but if no fault divorce leads to women divorcing their man without giving any reason, we would say that this was one of the factors with the increase of why the divorce rate is so high is because of no fault divorce, and we see the differences before no fault divorce and after no fault divorce. So this is one of the reasons why the divorce rate is so high.
Right. So
and this would destroy the nuclear family, but you said that the nuclear family is good.
Right. So what was the second part of my statement that answers your question?
I'm asking you a question. What are you talking about,
What's
man?
the second part? Were you listening?
I just asked you a
you weren't
question.
listening. So
Why
the
are you
second part of
asking
my
me a
statement
question with
was-
a question?
Because you said you were
I'm
listening.
asking you,
clearly
how is
weren't.
it?
Because
It's a
the second
contradiction.
Because the second part of my answer was, I don't think it should be enforced. So if someone doesn't want to be part of a nuclear family, the state shouldn't say you have to be unless you can come up with some reason. That
Who
we
said
deem-
that? That's not even.
That's
You're just
what
speaking
no
nonsense.
fault divorce is. If you can
No, it
say,
isn't. You have to give a reason, a valid reason. You go to court. You go to court
divorce,
for it.
if you just
Like
say,
if the
"I'm
man
unhappy,"
cheated on you, and you can show proof that the man had sex with all of these women and gave you AIDS or something. Oh well, yeah, the judge is gonna go ahead and grant that. But it's
unhappy,
based
do you
if
think
the
I should be
woman
able to do
wakes
that?
up one day like, I don't really like you anymore, and I'm gonna go ahead and divorce you because I fell in love with the milkman. Well, no, that's not a valid reason for divorce. Let's go ahead and work this out.
So
Let's go to
what you're saying
counseling.
is
Let's
we
go to
should-
therapy.
we should
We should have
force
things in place, not
nuclear family?
enforced.
That
We should
is
have
enforced.
things
You're
in
saying
place.
You can't not choose it, right? You can't say, I'm not happy, I want to get out of this. No, you have to do it, right?
Once again, we should have things in place
Okay,
when
you're
the
incapable
woman
of
is
engaging with what I'm
unhappy.
saying. It's
No,
pretty
I am engaging with you, man. What are you speaking about? Right? We're speaking about no fault divorce.
Right.
And I'm saying that currently women do not have to give a reason. They can just divorce their man. So based off how they feel, they can divorce their man. And we see how this was the destruction of nuclear family. This is one of the reasons that
So
destroyed
that's
the
the
nuclear family.
entailment that you haven't proved. So like again, I'm not entirely with you, but like I think that there are cultural issues that we have in our modern society that we need to take seriously.
Yeah, I said that is one of the reasons why I destroyed the nuclear. It's one of the reasons why.
Can you
if
substantiate
it's
that?
the case, I can. If it's the case, and you can go ahead and look it up. The divorce rates prior to no fault divorce was way lower than after no fault divorce. What we seen in society when we legalized no fault divorce and women didn't have to give a valid reason why they were divorcing their man, we seen that the divorce rate increased. It skyrocketed. Now his position is the nuclear family is a good thing. My question to him, if the nuclear family is a good thing and that's something that you want to maintain, why would you then why would you be pro no fault divorce. It seemed that would be nonsensical.
I don't think you should enforce it, right?
Then how is it enforcing it? How would that be enforcing it?
You don't want to be part of a nuclear family unless you have a reason that the state deems valid, aka if you're unhappy, that's not enough. Ergo, you have to be forced into the nuclear family.
Why is that bad?
Well, that's a different question. Do we want to talk about why I think that forcing the nuclear family is bad?
I think it's good. So why is it bad?
Okay. Do you think that we should force everyone to, for example,
I just
stay in their
said
home?
I think we should force people to stay in marriage and not just be able to break up because they think I'm unhappy. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Can you answer why?
Do you think
why is it bad, Soy Pill?
I'm asking you a question to demonstrate why I think
Don't
it's bad.
ask me a question. Answer my question.
I promise you'll understand when you try to listen, but I know it's hard for you. So
I know you think everyone's stupid, right? But you're the one here wearing a suit.
Not everyone.
You're demonstrating very easily that you're very, very low.
Ask your question, Soy.
Okay, so my question is, do you think it would be good if every single person was forced into their home?
Nope. Whole different argument.
Well, it would reduce crime.
I didn't say I want to force everybody to stay inside. That's not what I said.
Well, look at Cooley's active listening. By the way, he's active listening real good right now.
I'm listening to you. You just asked if it would be good if people force people to stay in their home.
No, I'm
not
running
like
away.
That.
The point I'm making is there's lots of things that we can enforce that might make things better for everyone. For example, if we got rid of all crime by forcing everyone to their home, we would reduce all crime. But I wouldn't want everyone to be unhappy insofar as not being able to exhibit.
If people left their home, it would be a crime, and you think we would reduce crime by making it a law that you have to stay in your home?
It would reduce
stupid,
almost
every. You think laws stop crimes from happening? Is that what you think?
No, I think people with guns saying, "If you come out of your home, I'll shoot you," would reduce people from going outside and committing crimes.
And how does this map on something? No,
how does this map
on force people into situations?
Not even a realistic hypothetical.
Obviously, it's not realistic. But what the point is if you force people to do things that make them unhappy, I don't think that necessarily results in a better outcome. And I can see by the way that allowing women to enter the workforce
and bad people work miserable every day. What are you talking about? We force people to be miserable all the time. You have to work to eat. You have to work to have a house over your head. For you to be on this internet, buddy, you have to work. What are you talking about? You force people to do shit they don't want to do all the time.
Yeah, and so
again, why it's bad.
Tell me why it's bad to force people to do things.
No. To his question, why is it bad to force people to stay in a nuclear family?
Because I think it would make most people unhappy if that's the only outcome they were allowed to do. I think it actually grants a lot of freedom and access to be able to explore your life. And I think it results in better outcomes when people can pursue their passions. And Tally, I don't know if you want to back me up here. I wouldn't want to force Tally into a heterosexual marriage with a guy she's not really into and have babies that she doesn't want to have with them. But that's just me.
So just to be clear, okay, you think you don't want to force people into it because you don't like it? That's your whole thing here?
I think it produces worse overall outcomes for those people. Why you can have some sort of benefit. So you can have some sort of benefit from a nuclear family, ergo, like, oh, the kids might be happier insofar as they have both parents able to raise them, help them with their homework.
They become better members of society, commit less crime,
do less children in broken households
where they're for the kids.
Let me finish. If you look at the metrics for children in broken households where their parents are, subject to some sort of religious law that says you can't get divorced, they're actually way unhappier, much more likely to be abused, much more likely to take the abuse from their parents abusing each other or abusing them and inflict it on their own children. So yeah, I don't think that's necessarily good.
That's the same in a single parent broken household too. So you're not comparing it to one the other. It's the same thing. What are you
people who aren't allowed to divorce to people who are happy?
Single parent households have way more higher rates for abuse.
Okay, here's a test.
What are you talking about?
You think if the government just had a mandated husband and we gave mandated husbands to every single woman, that this would solve the single parent metrics of bad outcomes for children? Or do you think we'd have some weird fucked up society where you have a government employee in the house and the children aren't really raised in the way that you want them to be?
If we
think that would be mandated federal workers to be husbands for all the single moms, do you think that
why do they have to stay inside? Why does it turn into this like imprisonment camp?
I'm trying to show you that enforcing something that may or may not have good outcomes for society doesn't mean it's a desirable outcome. Just because we got rid of crime doesn't mean it's a good way to get rid of it.
Wait a minute. If it has good outcomes for society, that is your definition of good.
You understand that some things can be good while not being the best solution. For example, it would be good if we killed every criminal, but it would be bad to kill every criminal.
What does this have to do with the no fault divorce?
Because I think
it's good to keep people in marriages even if they say they're unhappy because it has a better outcome on the children. Can you explain to me why that's bad?
Because one, it doesn't necessarily. In fact, a lot of these, especially if they're unhappy in the marriages,
yes, necessarily it does. Overwhelmingly, the statistics show.
Okay, so yes, sometimes nuclear family, or let's say this: overwhelmingly nuclear
parent households, overwhelmingly with two biological parents, overwhelmingly have better by all metrics for the children.
And also the metrics you're looking at now take into account that all the people that don't have that are divorcing and they're not staying in broken forced nuclear family marriages. So
it's comparing it to divorced marriage. Are you listening? Or
if they're trapped in the marriage, that's not what's happening now because no fault divorce exists. So you're only looking at the people who stay together and are happy.
You don't think so? You think, just to be clear, you don't think if people knew the outcome that they couldn't just leave because they're happy, we wouldn't have less people just getting married on a whim? Because, you know what? She's got nice tits, so I'm going to marry her. You don't think we'd have less of that when they knew that the outcome is they can't just
to someone for having nice
logically.
Tits
just think with your head, because you're the smart guy here. Remember, you're the big smart guy. I'm just dumb, tattooed up idiot. Okay, so tell me logically, if people knew they couldn't just leave the marriage, would we have less or more?
Sorry, can you ask the question one more time?
I know you're too stupid. I get it. It's okay.
No, I'm slow. I'm sorry. I'm a simple man. Can you ask it one more time?
Man, that's taking it kind of far, but.
So I was just looking up. I was just looking up a couple things of like when no forced default came in, became legal in the United States, and also the drop in our reproductive rates. And it looks like this happened. It sort of staggered. The different states adopted no fault divorce at different times. New York, one of the bluest states in the country, was actually the last to adopt this in 2010. But it seems like our falling fertility rates predate or actually line up with this. So it seems like this was not a result of no fault divorce.
We're not comparing that. We're not comparing that. What we are comparing is no fault.
That was one of the main arguments that was.
The main argument.
We were talking about the
no fault divorce versus destroying the nuclear family. Had nothing to do with women aborting their children. That was an entirely different discussion.
That started with reproductive rights.
And I'm not talking about abortion.
The sexism thing.
We didn't make that correlation though. That wasn't our argument.
It like trickled in.
It was part,
right?
It trickled in, but
It was certainly part of the argument. And I mean, that is what we're talking about. The decrease in nuclear families goes along with, right, the decrease in our replacement rates for reproduction. And all of these things also line up again with the introduction of contraception and stuff, and just like changes in norms, cultural norms. So I think it's hard to argue that any one of these things in particular is responsible for the negative outcomes that you're attributing to them, especially when we see this play out in other cultures too that are even more traditional.
Yeah. So the argument was not that it's the only thing. We're saying that it's one of the things that contributed to the decline in the divorce rate, which is the destruction of the nuclear family. Because if women are divorcing men, obviously that's destroying the nuclear family. They're separating the children from the man. So and then. So quick question, Soy Pill, in a conversation that you were having with Speakeasy. It seems like, Soy Pill, you're alluding to the part that, well, in some cases, utilizing utilitarianism and looking at data, we can see that, if we do force women to marry, if we do force the nuclear family, it can be some positive sides, but then it can also be some negative sides as well.
Sure.
Right. So then how do you make the determination of what we should do?
Well, it's just my preference, as you might say. Now, if you want to say that that's not valid, for example, if we locked every man up, there would be no, or not no crime, but a huge reduction in crime. We just milked them for their semen. We would have a much better society in certain ways, but we'd also not, be able to produce as much because they wouldn't be able to work. I can look at things and say, hey, I prefer when everyone's able to work and produce and have one of the most prosperous countries in the world, but I don't like that there's a lot of crime. But that doesn't mean that the only solution to said thing is to force people into no fault or to divorce marriages in which they have to give a very specific reason from the state.
That's
I think
fair.
there's plenty of ways.
The soy pill coming in with my
what do
favorite
you look
conservative
at marriage
saying,
as,
which is
soy
there are
pill?
no such things as solutions, only trade-offs. And so soy pill is saying that when we introduce these solutions, we need to look at what the trade-offs might be. And he's evaluating that he doesn't like the other end of that trade-off. That there might be some
What does
negative
soy pill look at
consequences
as a marriage,
to X.
or look at a marriage as? What do you look at a marriage as?
What do I
A
look
contract?
as
Would that be
as?
fair to assume?
Do you mean like legally? Do you mean like society?
Yeah. What do you look at marriage as?
A promise to someone that you'll love them forever for half their stuff.
Okay, and then the legal part, you would say it's a contract.
Sure.
Okay, so do you think like it's good to allow people to just back out of contracts because they're not happy anymore?
Yeah, depending on what the contract.
Oh, it is.
Now you got me, dude. If I call it a
What a
contract, now I
broken,
have changed my
stupid-
whole position on marriage.
So like say you're renting out a home, right? And you have a
Uh-huh.
lease agreement with someone.
Oh,
If they're just not
wait.
happy in the house
Uh-huh.
anymore, should they be able to break that with no consequences?
Well, as it's one-to-one analogous, I guess I also think that's okay too. You got me, dude.
Should they? They should be
No,
able to
obviously
break it.
not. I think a contract of marriage is very different than a contract of owning a house. But guess what? Marriage is about love. And
I
if you
didn't
stop
say about
loving a
owning a
person,
house.
fucking of apartment, whatever.
And this will
Yeah,
be
just
a
rental
by the way,
agreement.
just to be clear,
When it
because
comes
the reason I've been looking to the left the whole time was to look up real median wages, and it's like by and large, like way fucking better than it was in 1900. I don't know what numbers you're using, but it looks like the real average annual wages of 1900, 1920s was like less than 1,000, and now we're at like
I said
78.
1950s. I don't know if you're not good at tracking, so 1950s.
If it's 1950s, I'll look up that number too. But,
yeah, check it out, buddy.
Women were already in the workforce at that point. For
Go check it out.
So soy pill. I see what
In
you're
fact,
saying.
nobody's saying to completely take women out of the workforce, anyways.
I know. Okay, what's up?
So real quick, soy pill. I understand you pretty much saying, yeah, man, it's a little bit more nuance. There's some nuance in there when we're making these determining factors with using data. That makes sense, right? And when we're saying that, no fault divorce, this was one of the causes to the destruction of the nuclear family because the divorce rate skyrocketed right after it was made legal, right? When no fault divorce came about. Now, if it's the case where we can, data would show that, well, if the woman needs to give a valid reason for divorce, this is not necessarily meaning that we're forcing her, meaning that she just needs to give a valid reason. And this can be many different categories for this reason to be valid, right? Just to make an example, like say if the woman wants to divorce her man because, the man was a serial cheater, and she caught a STD because of it, and she went to court, I would think that would be justifiable reason for you to go ahead and divorce your husband. But if she just wants to divorce her husband based off of how she feels, and you're okay with that without any other stipulations in place, and you know that reason destroys the nuclear family, which you claim that the nuclear family is good, why would you be in favor of that and not in favor of the other where she has to give a valid reason?
Yeah, sure. So I think you're bearing the lead a little bit by saying it's just based on how she feels. I think a lot of people who get divorced today have usually pretty what I would consider valid reasons, just because it's not the man is cheating. There could be things that, hey, people change. I'm not in love with you. I don't like spending every single one of my days with you. This really isn't fulfilling my needs. And any and all of those things are totally fine for someone to say, I don't want to be forced to live in the same house as you by the state.
What about marriage counseling?
I think that
things like that. Are you fine with
these options first? If you're just deciding to get divorced on a whim and you have like on your 7th or 8th marriage, yeah, I'd probably agree with you. There's a lot of people that make spurious, impulsive decisions, but that doesn't mean that the state should enforce marriage counseling before they're allowed to get divorced. Just to be clear. And
so you don't even think that the state should enforce marriage counseling?
I don't think the state should enforce marriages, period, if that's what you are advocating for by getting rid of no fault.
Well, no, I'm just speaking about the marriage counseling.
Well, if we're putting it in the frame of contracts and again, take it away from like the state enforcing this and rather like the courts deciding on people upholding to the contracts that they signed, I don't inherently see a problem with working into a marriage contract that if you are trying to get out of a divorce for reasons beyond abuse and cheating and all of these things, that yes, you should have to aim for reconciliation first. Things that might be written into other standard contracts, right? If you run into an issue here, you need to try to mediate it in X, Y, and Z way before you can get out of the contract. And so I don't see a problem in encouraging counseling.
So do you know one of the main reasons that women,
even most states, like Maryland here, we have a 1-year separation law that it's a cool down period, and they always recommend
sense.
Yeah, a lot of states recognize that. There are, I think California, you can like go get married and divorced all in pretty much the same day. But California is kind of odd in a lot of things anyways, but most states like actually have a lot of requirements. You can't just like go to the courthouse and say, I don't love him anymore, I want to walk away. Like there's a whole process and a cool down period. A lot of them will even ask all of these questions like, and even some of them, like here in Maryland, they require you to actually be separated for a full year. Like you cannot reside in the same household, or even have sex. Like when I got my divorce, it said like, have you had any sexual interactions and so on and so forth in the last year, right? Because they want to make sure there's no potential for you to get back together. They want you to really think about it. So Cooley, I do understand your sentiment in the idea of like just going and getting a divorce tomorrow and calling it a day. But most states recognize exactly what you're saying, and that's why they kind of allow kind of force a buffer between people.
It can go further than that. There could be financial incentives too, right? That if you are specifically
Sarah, like that isn't any force. Like what I'm saying is, it's in order for you to be divorced. If we get rid of no fault divorce, prior to no fault divorce, you had to show some proof, right? You had to have a valid reason. And even certain states had stipulations where you had to have marriage counseling. Certain states did have that, where you had to try to reconcile your differences. One of the main reasons for divorce that women check off is that they can't reconcile their differences, but they haven't even went to divorce counseling. They haven't even sought out therapy. They haven't even went to the church to try to see what's really going on with their relationship. They did nothing.
Right, but Sarah's encouraging that we do enforce those types of things. And again, even to take it a step further,
soy pill isn't.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't think the state.
He's not entirely bought in.
Yeah, this is why this is why it's an entire worldview contradiction. Real quick, this is why it's an entire contradiction to his statement that if it's the case that the nuclear family is a good thing, but you are pro no fault divorce. Literally, you're not with it at all, bro. I try to give you a bone here and try to create some nuance. You're still not with it. And we see that is the decline in marriage rates, which is the destruction of nuclear family. So how can you be for the nuclear family, but
because he ranks his priorities.
No, and also you're assuming that
it is not even a priority. He literally just said that.
It is a ranking of priorities. Hold on.
Let's Soy answer.
You're assuming baked into this premise that every single one of these nuclear families is necessarily good, when I am saying that if you look at the stats of a lot of people who are forced or kept in marriages that they don't want to be in, you actually do have worse outcomes for a lot of these children. And even the people that are saying, oh, we'll stay together for the kids, you end up having fucked up kids with parents who don't love each other and always screaming at each other, who then in turn abuse people around them because of that. If you look at these stats, so
your utilitarianism does the stats not compare to that, because single mother households do much worse than 2-parent households. So what are you speaking about?
Yeah, like you keep saying this. Oh, well, there's a lot of situations that people are unhappy. Stats show most 2-parent biological homes have the best metrics in all metrics you're going to say that are good for society.
Are you comparing today people who are staying together in a world where no fault divorce is allowed to people who are single now? Or are you comparing it of people before marriages when biological parent homes compared to everything else? No, because you would need to show me that before no fault divorce laws came into about, so when people were forced into these marriages, that necessarily these kids are going to have better outcomes than parents who are happy or divorced trying to raise kids. Now, obviously, having 2 people doing any job is going to be easier. I'm saying there's a lot of places where I wouldn't want, just because I might disagree with the concept of getting divorced for no reason at all, that forcing it from the state is going to make that worse, and I don't want the state to be involved in that capacity. And those aren't the two dichotomous options. It's not like these are the only two things you could do. And also, last thing, because I kept looking it up, the 1950s median real wage was $40,000. Now it's $80,000. So you're wrong there too.
Doubled, yeah. Well, and also they're just it's not necessarily a contradiction of worldview.
Did you account for inflation when you said that?
No, that's funny you asked. You know what real median wage means?
We're gonna shut down.
Did you account for inflation?
Yes,
I account for inflation in the real median wage?
Definitionally, it adjusts for inflation. Definitionally, real median wage adjusts for inflation.
No.
Yes.
What?
No. Real median wage means it's accounted for inflation. So 40 to 80, it means it's increased.
It's a 100%
Send me what you're looking at.
Just look up real median wage for the years you're talking about.
Let's put a pin in the median. Okay, let's put a pin in the real median wage. All right, we're gonna hold that little bubble in our head. Let's go into work because we're almost 20 minutes over. I was letting it go because you guys were kind of finishing up the no fault divorce, and I wanted you to tail end it. But now we're starting a whole new conversation. I don't want to do that. So let's do closing statements, and then of course once we move into open panel, you guys can fire off all this stuff, and I won't stop you. Soy Pill, would you like to start with your closing statement?
Oh man, I didn't prepare anything. Yeah, sure. I guess I came to debate whether or not certain forms of sexism that aren't currently exhibited but may have been exhibited in the past, like not being able to vote, not being able to work, things that we would consider bad for various reasons, are still bad by the metrics that I would bring up. Instead, we argued for 2 hours about whether or not having different bathrooms is sexist, and therefore, if I think it's sexist, it's good, but that's kind of what I predicted. But also, as soon as we got into anything, we can just attribute everything from correlation of women being able to do things as that's why society is bad now. Doesn't matter why. It doesn't matter if we can attribute actually directly that this is the case or no fault divorce or any of this stuff. We can just kind of vaguely point at all of the things that are wrong in society and say, oh, it's the women's rights fault, because there's no actual data to back this up. Yeah, everything's a lot better now. There are things that are bad, but everything that we are allowed to do now, such as speak on mics and talk for a living, is because of women being able to enter the workforce. If we remove them from the workforce, if we remove them from the military, we would just be worse off in every single capacity. And I appreciate that my opponents demonstrated this by, one, being fucking retarded, and two, Fugazee specifically asking Sarah for help because he was too incompetent to use the technology that allowed him to stream. Thank you very much. I'm the Soy Pill.
Thank you, Soy Pill. A tally to you, please.
You can tell that the Soy Pill is from the West Coast and not the East Coast because he says Fugazee instead of Fugazee, and that is a Fugazee mistake and slip up here on the stage. But to reiterate from my opening, I believe that there are significant differences between men and women biologically and psychologically, that acknowledging these differences and accepting that these differences mean that we will see different outcomes in society is not sexism. I am okay with having extreme discrepancies between the sexes in all number of domains of life. However, I don't think that the determining factor on whether someone is eligible to participate in a certain sector of life should be their sex. It should be their competency and whether they can rise to the challenge, not whether they have a vagina or a penis. You are overwhelmingly going to see these things pan out along two lines or categories, as my friend Cooley might say. But just because we see a discrepancy between these categories does not mean that there is some nefarious sexism monster leading that. And I think that even if the overwhelming majority of women are not suited to be a police officer, I want the one woman who is. I want her on my streets. And yeah. That's my closing.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tally. David, to you, sir.
Sure. So, yeah, Tally is a complete sexist. She is a lesbian. She prefers women over men. She's that's the definition of sexism. Horrible. Why don't you like penises, Sally? Well, I don't know. I like vagina more. Sexist. You can't even procreate with that chick. I don't care about my biological superpower. I'm going to go ahead and give that up. Sexist.
I'm not giving it up.
When we're speaking about Soy Pill,
my wife has a brother.
Then when we're speaking about, I thought this was my closing. You see how chat, when they were giving their closing and they mentioned me, I did not interrupt. I didn't say anything. So we really see who's triggered here during this debate. So when it comes to Soy Pill, and we're speaking about, once again, everything reduces down to preferences. What these two people don't understand is that Well, all I did was this entire debate was an internal critique and granted your worldview. And under your worldview, it doesn't matter what definition you provide of sexism, it still includes things that's going to be based off of preferences because it's how you perceive prejudice, how you perceive discrimination, how you perceive stereotypes. This is what it all reduces down to. So what you deem you would deem something that's sexism is good. Someone else may deem sexism is bad. Both are still valid. I heard no one give any distinction towards how would we determine which one is more valid. No, they didn't give no distinction which one was more valid, chat. What they did was, which one we would honor more based off of data. Then when we get into the intricacies of everything and we're speaking about data, well, me and Speakeasy, we gave many data points when it shows that, well, Soy Pill says the nuclear family is a good thing. And then he appeals to, he's for a no-fault divorce when data shows specifically it's a perfect correlation that when no-fault divorce was introduced, the divorce rate increased, which then destroys the nuclear family. So it's a contradiction. How are you think it's good, but you are for destroying the nuclear family? He totally contradicted himself. But yeah, man, I think that it was a W right in the first 10 minutes. They agreed that, sexism is good for society. They conceded on many points, and I put it to my partner, Speakeasy.
Thank you, Cooley. Speakeasy to you, please.
All right, yeah. Cooley covered most of what I would repeat, to be honest. The other side just conceded the point right off the bat, right? They admitted that it sometimes works, and then trying to soften it, they basically just agreed with me that societies function because of sex-based roles. So, people call sexism inequality, but history, law, survival, every system we rely on says it otherwise, right? Sexism isn't just good, it's inevitable for society to function, right? And now you have at the end, that's why at the end here you had Soy Pill clinging to his hollow slogans and weak performative arguments, right? Going at people with his ad homs while he's wearing his gay little propeller cap. It's just wild to me.
Okay. Thank you to all of you. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the link for the open panel dumpster fire. And while you guys are all trickling to the backstage, we're going to go ahead and read off some super chats. We'll get through those and then go into the fun part. This was a very interesting
I had fun, Sarah.
Conversation.
I reject the notion that this wasn't the fun part. I had a good time.
It was fun. It was fun. I still need some help understanding some things being said tonight. Okay, War Dog over on David's side.
It's because of your lady brain.
Yeah, you're just too stupid to understand it, to be fair.
I guess so.
Biologically predetermined not to get it. It sucks.
Right? Oh my goodness. War Dog says over on David's side, locked in. Very nice.
Hey, War Dog, were you born in 1988? That's an interesting name, buddy.
What's wrong with being born in the 80s?
Nothing's wrong with being born in the 80s. I'm just curious why the 88 in this username. Do you know what 88 means, Sarah?
Probably a year of birth, or they like the number 8. 8s are prosperous.
Kanye has something else to say about it. But...
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. Neve says, and you guys are welcome to respond to any and everything. Try to keep them somewhat concise. I know sometimes we can stir up more arguments from the super chats. Neve comes in to say, ban women from industrialist jobs because reproductive health, and ban men from taking YouTube as a job because they can't protect women if they don't go outside.
True. I support it. Men should not be allowed to podcast. It's degenerate.
Yes. Besides, women like talking more anyways. XQ says feminism is a male supremacy movement. Why else are men to blame for all the problems? Is it because their lives, actions, and beliefs are unimportant?
This seems like super incoherent. Is it one of those
it's
like
bad to blame men for all of your problems? If you're a woman and you do that shit, that's
women can be
dumb.
just as dumb and as harmful as men. I'll say that. I'm not afraid.
I'm not afraid.
I mean, statistically, there are more dumb men than dumb women, but there are also
whoa! I was granting the bridge, Tali. You didn't have to.
There are also
but
more
the smartest people in the world are men. Just to say,
if only we could claim it collectively.
Said that, but that's fine.
Fair enough. War Dog says exceptions don't make the rule because men are the enforcement in general. Women are not actually doing anything, even as cops, military, etc.
I'll extend that. I'll say most cops aren't doing anything, etc. Regardless of their gender. They're just kind of fat and they sit in their cars and give you a speeding ticket when you don't deserve it.
Most cops?
Yeah, most of them. Well, at least I'm in a nicer area. I'm sure there's worse areas where they actually do stuff, but
yeah, that's the type of shit people say when they don't have actual problems to deal with. Most cops
but the reason
bad.
I don't have problems to deal with
Yes, when they don't live in
police doing
black
their job.
crime-ridden neighborhoods, which is why
Tali!
we should make it illegal for black people to live in cities, and we should make it illegal for women to participate in the job market. We should follow the statistics.
I disavow!
We should follow the statistics.
I disavow.
Again, your arbitrary line versus a biological
It's not
line.
arbitrary.
It's a
not
stupid
arbitrary.
argument.
It's based
it's a
on
stupid
statistics.
argument. It's just
Not
dumb.
Yeah, she's comparing the apples to oranges, race and sex.
Those are both fruit. They're comparable.
Oh, good
Low
fucking
IQ
point.
argument.
Oh dear Jesus, Lord save me. Matt Skinner says this is for Sarah for listening to Four Tards. Yeah, this was a lot of talking past each other, and then you guys all came back around on each other's side, and then you guys went back the other way again, talking past each other, and ended up on the other side. That's the best way I could describe this conversation.
Sarah, I've always hated women. Don't straw me.
I know, Soy. It's okay. You're allowed to, actually. Thumpy Weevil says women are good at making sandwiches. Yes. But I also heard that in the chat that men make better sandwiches than girls.
I'll also say making a sandwich is like the easiest meal to
probably
prepare.
true.
So if you're trying to like stand on some high horse women, like learn to cook for fuck's sake. You're putting like a slice of meat and cheese in between bread. Literally 5-year-olds do it when their single mom isn't home. So
that's fair. That's fair. Neve says Cooley already conceded that his views are also based around preferences. Every argument he makes to criticize someone else's position can be made to defeat his own. What a dumb hill to die on.
Not exactly, because the thing is, when it's reduced to preferences, and I'm asking them the question to how can we validate our preferences, then it would only reduce down to force, and men have the monopoly on force. And I would think that they would concede and say the patriarchy is inherently sexist, men having this enforcement, men having this ability to enforce.
Wait. I've actually with that. What do you mean men have a monopoly on force?
Let me finish my point, right? Keep on cutting me off. This is why you don't understand, because you keep talking while I'm speaking, right? So at the end of the day, when I ask you the question, if it all reduces down to preferences, how can you validate whose preferences is more valid? One of the ways that you can validate it, the only way to truly validate it, it would reduce down to force. And since men have the monopoly on force, this would still, in your worldview, be sexist.
Would you say that white men have the monopoly on force over black men?
What does this argument or this question have anything?
Yeah, in this country, probably just based on the sizes of the population.
At the end of the day, rights come from force, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if they do
hold on.
Or if they don't. Please map it on. Go ahead. No, I want to hear soy pill.
Right. So if you're saying like the everything comes down to preference, and the only time it really matters is if men are enforcing this for women, and men could take it away at any point, right? Like this is the Andrew Wilson argument, right?
It's if you understand force, it's an argument. It's not an Andrew Wilson argument. It's just an argument.
All right, I heard it from him first. I just attributed it to
Andrew
him.
Tate even used this.
Every time Andrew says it, I understand.
Before,
what I'm saying is, like, are you prescribing anything from this based on the fact that men have the monopoly on force? Or are you just saying?
What I'm saying that is that it reduces down, in your worldview, it would reduce down to force. And since men have the monopoly on force, you would think that is sexist. If you don't yourself some people within your worldview, since it's preferences, they would believe that it is sexist, that men are the only ones that can enforce rights.
Preferences are not a worldview. You keep trying to do this like weird thing where it's basically people have your specific Christian worldview or everyone else has the same worldview where it is subjective, definitionally subjective, right? Because we all believe different things. But you really are lumping me and Soy Pill too in with a belief system that we just don't abide. So no, I agree with you that men absolutely have the monopoly on force. That's not sexism. That is a reality based on biological difference of a sexually dimorphic species. But I don't think you actually put the connection together. You said, okay, even if I concede that my argument is also based on preferences, how do we determine whose preferences are correct? You said by who can enforce it. That's not true. That goes back to the sort of argument that we were making before about like the state. Like, okay, well, just because the state puts something into
my
law,
position accurately. Once again, anytime I say valid, you guys use different words. You would say, well, who would we honor? Which preferences would we honor?
I didn't say honor. Fine,
all
valid.
These things. We're speaking about how can you validate?
I'm truly trying
how can you validate? Okay, got it.
Your worldview.
I'll
You're
say
saying
it again.
validate instead of
how can you validate? Yeah. So how can you validate if it reduces down to preferences? So it's my preferences versus your preferences. If this is what it reduces down to, if you are utilizing utilitarian ethics or harm principle or anything, is still going to reduce down to preferences. And when it reduces down to preferences, I'm saying that give me another metric, another way that we can see who's more valid within their preference.
Well, Cooley, I guess it doesn't really matter, right?
Well, hold on, just really quickly.
Tally.
Sorry. Sorry. That doesn't, you haven't proved, at least to me, that who has the force does validate whose preferences are more valid. Yes, men are going to have
but
force.
who can validate it? Who can make it so?
Men can validate it. Men can only validate the preferences. We can enforce.
So by validate,
it's men.
Okay, so by validate you mean like manifest into society, make it so that it is law. Is that what you mean?
If it's only a construct in our mind, then how else are we going to make it into reality? What other determining factor are you going to use to validate your preference over mine if it's all in a mind? You can go ahead and utilize
hold on,
the moral question that you tried to pull in before that.
Well, not only that, even if you're utilizing the force doctrine to stand behind your preference, what if all the men preferred sexism is not good?
Yeah, what if 60% of men voted for abortion?
It doesn't hold, right? And that's what I was trying to say earlier is if we're all baseline on preferences, fine.
It would still be sexist, Sarah.
That's not sexist. This is biologically true.
Yeah, this sounds woke because that means that racism is inherent because white men have a monopoly on force over black men.
Right, like
it sounds like you believe in
first off, you're looking in one area of the world.
Yeah, one area of it.
So there was times that white people have been slaves.
We're talking about America.
Like I don't know.
Look, globally, black.
I'll just go ahead and grant it. Okay, and
the world is just inherently racist, but that sounds pretty woke.
What we're trying
How
to
is the world based off of U.S.? You just said the world's inherently racist because black.
We have the biggest stick. I'm sorry. You believe in force doctrine. We have the most nukes. We have the best military. Like we can enforce our will on pretty much anyone. And yeah, I don't know what those.
Well, I mean, white
countries
are running circles around black countries, so actually, this does seem to extend beyond the United States of America.
They have the say in their countries.
I just feel like we're just ignoring some patterns and choosing to hyper focus on other patterns. You can go ahead and grant
that and say that there's more white people in more white men in positions of power, and they have the Donald Trump, he got a nuclear button. Putin, he's white, he got a nuclear button.
Why aren't the black countries building their own nuclear bombs and
got a nuclear button? At the end of the day, the thing is,
what has to do with them being black.
Speak easy. Let me I got you.
I don't know. Does it have to do with women being women? I don't know.
Well,
yeah, that's why there's no matriarchy that's ever survived, because women can't be the ones holding all the power.
I'm not calling for a matriarchy. Certainly not. No.
Yeah, but you're
right. So we need a sexist society, right?
To uphold our society.
The whole race and sex correlation is terrible because we can go ahead and grant that and say, yes, this still does not refute the sexism argument.
Fine. So wait, you're granting that the world is inherently racist.
What are you? No one said
black
that.
people.
What are you speaking
No,
about?
you said you could grant it because
no one said that at all.
Sorry,
we were
sorry.
speaking about enforcement.
In this comparison that we are
Soy
making.
pill
So
and
actually,
you-
that was
stop
Soy
it,
Pill's
stop it.
exact
You're just-
example.
No,
What
stop
Soy Pill
it.
literally
You're just-
said was, okay, that's pretty woke. Then you could say
No,
that
wrong,
actually
wrong,
society
wrong.
is inherently
You're straw
racist
man in the
because white
position and you don't
men,
even know what
because
you're
white men.
in his
Soy
argument.
Pill, is that not what you said?
We are moving on. We're moving on. We'll cut. We'll cut. We're gonna put
You
a little
guys
pin
can't
in
even
that
tell
one.
me what race is, but you want to keep talking about race.
We're gonna put a pin in the racism one.
You were the one who gave the woke definition of race.
We've got the median wage
Nope.
and we've got the race. We'll put a pin in it. Dear fucking Lord. Oh my God. Matt Skinner says 4 L's for 4 tards. It is it's 2. You spelled 2 wrong, Matt. You can't call people tards and spell 2 wrong.
Yeah.
It's too embarrassing to watch anymore. Keep on carrying on, Sarah. And you spelled my name wrong too. I love you. Thank you though, Matt.
What a retard.
Uncle says, Soy, when you point out the fact that Cooley is black to support your argument, do you actually think it makes you appear intelligent? Just curious. Thanks, bud. Are you smart?
I think pointing out people's blackness is unintelligent. I don't see race.
Oh, Lord. Neve says, wait, so Cooley now believes in objective morality. What did you mean when you said your views were based on preferences then? Dude is not ready for an open panel. He hasn't even made an argument yet.
No, I have to steel man Cooley here. Cooley was very clear that he was operating in our worldview. He believes in objective morality. He did not argue on those stances. So, Neve, you're just misunderstanding.
Yeah,
he was
man.
just
Low
doing
IQ.
our thing. But to be fair, his objective morality is retarded. Just to throw that out at the end.
Yeah, I already know you. This is why I didn't make an argument for it, because you think it's preferences anyway. So yeah.
Subjectively retarded, to be fair.
That's true. No, that's not true. God told me he was retarded. He just did. Objectively. So.
Yeah. That's what he thinks.
BB says, I find it extremely sexist as a man to be denied entry to a female-only gym. Do I care? Nope. Prefer a peaceful workout. That's fair. I think that's fair. BB also says, in a workspace as a manager, I've never seen a sexism claim from a man to a woman. My observation would be women utilize these for advantages.
Let me ask something based on that last super chat there.
That happens, definitely.
Soy Pill. Soy Pill, would you say, and Tally, would you guys say it's good that at bars and nightclubs, they allow women in for free because men are the ones that are more likely to spend the money there. So letting the women come for free attracts the men there to spend the money and then drive the economy up. Do you think that's a good thing?
I think it's good for business. I don't know if I actually agree with the principle.
Sexism is good then. Gotcha.
Bro,
what is that? The 5th concession now? 5th concession now?
I concede, dude. I concede the whole argument. You got me, bro.
Oh my
Do you know they also have like different bathrooms too? I should have thought of that before I agreed to this.
Yeah. We should keep people that think they're the boys that think they're girls and the girls that think they're boys in the sex-based bathrooms. What would that be?
Would that
sexism?
Be sexist?
Dummy.
Oh Lord. BB sends 10 just for me to tell you all I hate you so much right now. Hall Long Nate says, let's fucking go, Cooley. The historical record through the millennia is that the Christianity had created the foundations for multiple lasting societies. Inside of 100 years, feminist societies are declining.
100% true.
Yeah. Literally, if you just have the religion that existed when everyone was around, you could say the same about Muslim societies and how they invented a bunch of math. You could say the same about Jewish societies. But we're pushing away from that now because we realize how backwards and dumb it is, and we're moving towards better things. So.
All right.
My preferences. That's what you're moving towards, and you can't even validate.
No, God told me not to be religious. Actually,
you can't even validate.
He just said it to me right now.
Yeah, great.
Is he the one who told you to wear that gay hat too, or
he did? He was like, "Son, look, you're too masculine. You're going to intimidate these guys. Put on the gay hat so they don't feel so bad about being so retarded."
Oh Lord. Casual Crip says, without a transcendent anchor, secular morality rests on shifting human consensus. What is good today may be evil tomorrow, leaving no enduring ground for the moral truth.
That's true.
How Long Nate also says, yellow chats add to the goal. The likes don't add themselves. Sarah deserves our contributions because of this high tier content. Divorce should be as rare as the faults that lead to it. That's fair. And yes, the chat did meet their goal earlier. Congratulations, and continue taking your W's in the chat this evening.
Sarah, would you say that your kids have like worse outcomes because you divorced what I presume to be a not good marriage? You don't have to answer that if it's too personal, but
No,
I would assume you have
actually-
beautiful, wonderful kids who are doing great.
They are amazing. I'm very happy and proud of my children. But actually, most people don't read the whole study. They only read kind of like these topical little pieces. The study actually goes down into further demographics. So like single mother households, like in the suburbs that like father is still involved and weird things like that. They're divorced, yada, yada, yada. Like their kids actually do just fine. It's when you get down into other demographics like inner cities, poverty, there's race involved and so on and so forth, where that is where it actually shows the criminality. So like most people just never deep dive the whole study. It happens.
Sounding a little like Tally there.
Is that good or bad?
I don't know.
Always a compliment.
Depends on how you feel about it.
War Dog says a divorce is the reason we cannot develop generational wealth. Yeah, generational wealth isn't like a thing anymore, really. Or at least not in the common grounds. It's only for the 1%ers, I think. How long Nate says soy marriage is a choice to enter. Should we hold government to the oaths of office or just let them decide to break oaths at will?
Yeah, I think that determining the outcomes of an entire, state or, city or country are much higher stakes in terms of entering a contract than saying, I love you, let's stay married. I don't think it deserves some sort of state enforcement.
When the kids are involved, you don't think this adds an extra measure to how you're going to impact the society around you?
100% does. And I will concede, obviously, like I did, that there are things that a two-parent household will ultimately, on a whole, on average, have better outcomes for. But there are also things where unhappy marriages will have worse outcomes for those children. It's a trade-off. There's no perfect solution. And I don't think the solution should be forcing people into marriage.
Well, no, see, this is the language you use that is wrong, right? You wouldn't be forcing people into marriage. You would be not letting them get out of marriage for just any nilly-willy reason.
Yeah, that's
right. Nobody's saying to force people to marry each other.
You can say the same thing as I said with more words, but it's more efficient. Have you heard Shakespeare said brevity is the soul of wit?
Your wit is garbage, bro. Your troll level is level 0, my guy.
No,
it's not funny. You look stupid.
So
You look like you're wearing a one. Like, do you identify as a 6-month-old with the hat and the onesie on? Like, what is wrong with you, bro?
Well, essentially, though, for
all
marriage,
this limp dick fucking attempt to get pussy is sad.
For marriage and divorce, right?
I try to get
hold on.
Yeah, the male feminist shit. You're just hoping you can sneak in some women's back doors when they're lonely.
You're true. I lie to every woman to try to have sex with them. It's true.
For marriage and divorce, though, if you like get married based on religious beliefs and you do the vows and you hold true to that and all of those things, like getting a divorce would go against all of those vows and against your belief system, so on and so forth, right? So that is like the Christian ethic or the religious side of marriage. But if we're talking about the government piece of paper between people, that is based on secular levels of things. So why are we trying to push ethics into a secularist viewpoint for whether we should or shouldn't have no fault divorces? These are people who aren't religious or don't hold true to those religious beliefs or don't stand behind that ethical or moral system.
Well, Sarah, to be fair, they said in our system, nuclear families have better outcomes for children. So even if it was like completely secular, they would say that if you keep them in that, you're going to have better outcomes for the children. The way I counter that was saying there's lots of things that would have better outcomes for society that I don't think the state should enforce because I think there are trade-offs to said things. I think that forcing the marriage is one of those things. By the way, to be clear, forcing the marriage is technically keeping the marriage from breaking up, not forcing them into marriage. I understand the distinction there.
That's fair. All right. Anthony says for the grift, 5 more to go after this. And then Anthony follows up with 10. Ben follows up with 10. Hall follows up with lazy chat, want a panel or not? Yes. And they, of course, they got their goal. So they will have their open panel. How long Nate says marriage was a religious commitment to life with that person for the purpose of raising children in congruent manner. Secularists made it a tax benefit. Any thoughts?
I mean, that's true. I just don't think the commitment to life needs to be enforced by the state unless it has some sort of state benefits. If it had 0 benefits, unironically can see some arguments for being against gay marriage if it's like, oh, marriage is just only exclusively the specific thing that the church says. It has nothing to do with how the state, gives you tax benefits or, child tax credit write-offs. If it's just specifically this thing and they don't even like gay marriage, then yeah, whatever. Then just call it a civil union. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. So.
Okay. Vincent says sexism being bad for society implies sexism is objective. So today's perception of sexism is as immoral applies to the past. The suffragettes were actually the minority and were considered immoral, bitter, divorced women that chose career over family.
I mean, sexism is objective in our definition that sexism is discrimination based on sex, but if we're going off the sexism is inherently a bad thing, then yeah, it's not objective. People say it was sexist to force women in and to get jobs because they can't survive without jobs, and they were happier in staying at home and taking care of the kids. But that's you'd have to run pretty wild with the definition of sexism there. But we did that, so.
How long? Nate says, keeps the chats coming. At will divorce encourages selfish behavior in a marriage to excuse breaking a contract. All right. Waghira says, a 90-day waiting period. This is a woman's argument. Just wait 90 days and it's still no fault divorce.
I'd agree with this one. The waiting period is a good step to the right direction, I guess, but it's still no fault divorce.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, now we can just go and do whatever we want, and then in a year we're gonna just sign off, and then I can just go do it again. You can literally get married and then apply for the divorce right away. I don't know if you guys realize that. That's what that's how stupid the whole thing is.
What if they cheated on you at their wedding though?
Then that wouldn't be a no-fault divorce.
Yeah, but you can apply for it, right?
You're so big-brained, buddy. It's amazing.
Did you know that when people were before no-fault divorce, the rates of women killing their husbands was much higher? Did you say that it's good?
Was it?
That? Yeah.
Is that just something you made off the top of your head?
No, it's not made up. You can look it up.
Hey, Sarah, I got to get going. But I do appreciate all of you. I do appreciate the spirited debate. I don't hold anything against Soy Pill or you. And shout outs to my teammate Speakeasy. But listen, good spirited debate, and I hope you all a well life.
Wait, I agree, but Cooley, can I have one last request? Is that I saw in the last thumbnail you made of us that me and Wick were both just random AI women. Could you put my real gay propeller face instead?
Yeah, this thumbnail, your face is there, man.
Have thanks, buddy.
Nice.
All right, have a good one.
Sorry for interrupting your closing statement. I'm quite the interrupter. Thank you for
all good. It's all love over here. I'm not that sensitive. But yeah,
all right.